Well, good day, everyone. I'm Dr. David Phelps, the author of the book that we're talking about today, What's Your Next? This is our launch day, and I'm proud of this book, not from an achievement standpoint, but from the standpoint that I've taken a lot of the lessons that I have learned in my life, and not so easy lessons, lessons that I think build character, but also build more of a reason why that we exist here today. You know, when I was young, and probably like a lot of young people, it was all about that achievement. It's all about going to school and getting the grades and getting to a business, a career, a profession. That was earmarked as success for us in society, and to a great extent, that is still success today. And what I realized through my ups and downs and my trials and tribulations through life, and now the great blessing that I have in working with so many other people that are in business, whether they're young people or mid-career, or even kind of on that end part of their life, but not ending it per se, but looking at what's their next. And I realized in my own life that had I just stayed on the direction of what society says is success, that is, obviously doing good work for people, a product, a service, a business, employed with a company that's doing good things. That's great. That's awesome. But what else are you missing in your life? What else could you be doing simultaneously to develop other passions, other interests? One of the lessons I've learned in watching other people that have aged out ahead of me, my own parents, other mentors that were with me early in my life. Also, there's a great palliative care nurse out of Australia. You can Google her. It's Bronnie Ware. And if you Google the 5 regrets of the dying, you'll find that as she spoke to people that were at the end of their life, they lived their lives and had their families and their businesses and all the things that go along with living and the busyness of our days. But at the end of their life, when she talked to them about what was most important, it was never about their personal achievements. Never about their personal achievements. Never about how much bigger the business could have been, or how much more wealth they could have had, or how many more deals or products or whatever it is. It was never about those things. It was about people, relationships, significance, meaning, impact. And that's meant a lot to me, because I wasn't that way when I was younger in life. I've been the driver. I'm still a driver, but it's a driver for a different reason. And I think having people realize that retirement, that word I hate, is not the end game of life. It's about milestones. And yes, you can retire out of one part of life, but you've got to have a next. You've got to always be building your next, and realizing that to do that, you can't do it in a vacuum. You can't do it solo. You can't do it by yourself. You need other aspects to create that freedom for yourself. One of those 5 freedoms is relationships. But the one I want to focus on here in our first segment with my guest, my honored guest here today, is my 5th freedom asset, and that is legacy. So what's legacy? To me, legacy is impact, it's significance, it's meaning, it's purpose. It's not what are you leaving to the next generation or leaving to other people, but what are you leaving in them? Because we all have an identity and all have a purpose in life, and too many people get stuck, sometimes not because of circumstances that they can control, or maybe it's decisions that we do make that might be not the best decisions, but there's opportunities to change and pivot at any point in life. So with me today, I'm very excited to have Lauren Rowe, who is the executive director of Lone Star Casa. We'll talk about what Lone Star Casa is in a minute. Also with her is one of my amazing Freedom Founders team members, Crystal Hollis. Crystal is not only a member of Freedom Founders, but she is also on the board of Lone Star Casa. And it's through Crystal's connection with Lauren and Lone Star Casa, the work that Crystal's doing as a board member, as a volunteer with this amazing organization, that we created this connection. And probably the biggest inspiration to what Lone Star Casa is doing, and I'll better go and give you what they do. So Lone Star Casa, CASA is the acronym for Court Appointed Special Advocates for Children. Now, Lauren, you are the executive director. You've been with Lone Star Casa, I think, since about the fall of 2019, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But you've been an advocate for children for like most of your life, correct?
Yeah. So I started out working at a teen girl group home right out of college. Didn't know really what I wanted to do, and I immediately just fell in love. working at this teen girl group home. And so I was a case manager. And then I was fortunate enough to become a director of a foster care agency for a while, and then was also able to do some programming for kids specific on education and independent living, on things that they weren't necessarily getting within the CPS system. I was able to kind of help and do some of that. And so, yeah, I've been an advocate for many years. And I got to come here in 2019, and this Rockwall happens to be my hometown. And so we are able to serve Rockwall and the Kaufman County communities as CASA advocates here.
And let's talk about specifically, what does CASA do to advocate for children within the system? And it is a system, of course. How are you able to help? Who do you help? How do you find the children that you help, and what kind of opportunities through your work and efforts do you try to make for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, unfortunately, when a judge has made the decision that a child can no longer live in their home because of abuse or neglect, they sign an order to have them removed. And when they do that in our counties, a judge immediately orders, in that court order, says that he wants a guardian ad litem. And that's what we are as CASAs. We are guardian ad litems. And so we work to find a volunteer. All of our work working with these kids is 100% volunteer driven. So we have 125 trained advocates who dedicate their time to taking a case on. And it could have one kid, it could have multiple kids. And then they work with them basically to be that constant relationship throughout the whole civil process that these kids go through. And their job is to be the eyes and ears for the judge. So they are to represent what is the best interest for the child, because as you know, a child usually doesn't have a say in these things, right? They're being removed due to something else that they didn't do. And so we want them, and judges want them, to have a voice. And that's what CASA gets to do. And so these advocates work with their biological family. They work with their current placement. They work with their educators and counselors and health professionals, and kind of gather all that data together while they're meeting with the kid monthly. They're playing games, having a good time, doing that sort of thing. And then they go to court and they testify to the judge what they believe is in the child's best interest, where the child should go. Because as you said, it is all about setting these kids up for success. We want to set these families up for success. That will be raising these kids, whether we hope that they'll be able to go back home, but that doesn't always happen. And so we want to find the best possible placement, but also keep those relationships intact, to be able to help that child build his network or her network.
I have such a huge heart, as I know you do, and so many people that volunteers with CASA, for children, because they are the most vulnerable in our society. As you said, they have no voice. They're in a system, and so many times not a good system, a good dynamic with families, and the advocacy that you provide for them is amazing. And I assume through this process also, is there some linkage to potentially with children that can't go back to their family of origin for adoption? Does that happen sometimes?
Yeah, it definitely happens. There's a lot of outcomes. Obviously, like we said, we like if they can go back with their family origin, or even a family member of origin. And I know Crystal may touch a little bit on that, but we also, work towards finding an adoptive home with CPS, and kind of partner with them and talk through and kind of be able to give the child who the adoptive home is, but also let the adoptive home know more about the child, to make sure it's a good match, because we want this to be successful and permanent for the kid. And then unfortunately, some don't. They kind of stay in care and they age out of care. And that's when our advocates really do their hardest work, because these kids are going to leave at 18 and they don't have a permanent home. And so these advocates become that constant, that link, and help them transition into adulthood smoothly.
Excellent. All right. So Crystal, I have the pleasure of knowing you for, the last 3 or 4 years. And one of the things I know about you is that you want to be a benefactor to as many living things, people and animals, as you can be. So I already knew that about you, but I wasn't aware until relatively recently, actually last fall, when you were talking about a young lady, 4 years old, her name Ava. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about through your work with Lauren and CASA, and where you are today with this young, amazing lady?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ava is a little girl that we found out about. She was in foster care, and she was actually down in Houston, and I met her through a friend. And she said this little girl is needing her forever home. And my best friend has been on the board for CASA. She's actually the president of the board this year. And she kind of talked to me about the whole foster care system and what the need is for these kids. And it kind of already opened my heart to that. And then when my friend mentioned Ava, and then we met her, and it was just meant to be. And so this whole thing has just opened my eyes to see what the need is and how much that CASA does for these children. My daughter, we actually have adopted her as of February 1st. She is legally ours forever and ever. So we met her in September, and now she's ours. And it's just been an amazing journey, but learning about the other kids that are still needing this. And, Ava's story's not over. She didn't have a fair start to life, but her CASA worker actually adopted her brother. So, they were not able to stay together for other reasons, but, that's how CASA works is, they form relationships, and they, impact these kids forever. So anyway, that's how it came about. And my eyes have been opened so much to see what this need is, and how just anyone can help with it. Volunteers, it's all volunteer based. You don't have to be special to do it.
Well, this is what I think. So there's so much meaning here, and as I alluded to earlier, that many times, a lot of us, and I'll raise my hand high and say I was one of those, that early in my life it was all about me. Me, stability, security. Me. But hopefully as we mature in life, we start to see that the blessings that any of us have, that the abundance that we have. I don't care what kind of problems we're going through. We all go through problems and tough times, but there's always people, in this case, children, that are having a much tougher time. And so for people that are trying to figure out, what's their next in life, I don't think there's anything better than finding an organization, a passion, an area of interest where you could potentially go and volunteer, because that's what starts to open the doors to figure out, where else could you serve? And the satisfaction, I think, in this case, it comes from seeing real people, their lives touched, this case, the children's lives, potentially in a very positive way, change forever, whereas where they were, that situation was going to be potentially very negative for them. And so the changes that you're making, CASA is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 organization. Now it's also nationwide, right? So it's nationwide, but the local affiliation is here in Texas, in Rockwall and Kaufman counties, where we are. And because of the inspiration that I felt, and my whole Freedom Founders team felt through vicariously living through the process that Crystal showed us all the way from September. We first got to meet Ava. While you're going through this process, you got to have her a few times, and we got to meet her early on. And yet this, that process is it's got some angst to it, doesn't it? Because when you start to develop that relationship, it's like, okay, now you want this to happen for this young person, and that yet there's still these hurdles to get through because the legal system's a legal system. But as we saw you go through this and saw this young lady with this beaming smile and just so much potential in her, all she needs is that place to lift her up and give her that warm place. So the inspiration, Crystal, that you gave us, and then connecting us with Lauren and CASA, what we want to do this week is donate the proceeds from all of our book sales this week during launch week of What's Your Next to Lone Star CASA. Just because we believe in what you're doing. And Crystal, you're one of us, and we want to sow into what you're doing and to the great work that Lauren, that you and all the volunteers do. So we'll be really proud to be able to provide you probably several checks over the next several weeks as these book sales come in. So for people that are with us on this live stream today, just want you to know that besides getting a copy of what I think is a really good book that'll help you with your next, you're also potentially helping other people and children by doing that. And to me, that's really what we need to be about in our lives, is how can we be more purposeful, directly, indirectly, however we can do it. There are great people and organizations that like Crystal and Lauren here today that are been putting a lot of their lives into helping other people. Let's play, Casey, if we could. You've got a short video about CASA. I think it would be a good time for us to play that right now. Let's do that.
Give me a chance while I'm in foster care to speak up for my best interests in court. Give me a chance. Be by my side during meetings with my social workers and lawyers so I don't get lost in the system. Give me a chance to talk to my teacher so I can do well in school.
Become a court-appointed special advocate or CASA volunteer and be a powerful voice in court for children in the foster care system. Give a child a chance at becomeacasa.org.
So, Lauren, what would you say today would be one of the biggest challenges that the organization Lone Star CASA has? What's the biggest challenge that you have right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll say COVID threw a wrench in a lot of things for us, as far as fundraising, as far as how we see our kids. All of that kind of changed and evolved. And unfortunately, as you know, we're just not getting back to normal at this point. And so I think the biggest challenge has been we are looking at budget shortfalls, and that's just part of we weren't able to have as many events last year and do that. But then in addition, we're also trying to figure out constantly how to do court virtually, which has been interesting, I think, even for the court administrators, just to try and figure out how to make sure all the people are involved. But as well, we're not able to see all our kids in their home. And so a lot of our volunteers still see all the kids in their home. They go out there, they play outside, they do stuff. But sometimes, unfortunately, whether it's medical issues or different reasons, we may not be able to. And so we're doing it virtually. And so our volunteers have taken that up, and they're amazing. And so they are then taking another step of not only talking with them virtually, but also checking in with other people like their counselors and their teachers, just making sure that they're doing well, since we can't actually see them in the home. So that's been a challenge, but I'll say our volunteers have been amazing. And like I said, it's 100% volunteer driven, and it's just regular, ordinary people. As Crystal said, there's nothing significant. It's not like they're all attorneys or anything like that. It's just they chose to give up their time and chose to care about these kids.
Yeah, that's really great. Crystal, what do you see in Ava that you feel like is bringing to your family? You already have an amazing young son, so it's kind of a perfect fit for you now. What do you see is the additional benefits that you derive in your family from helping someone like Ava? What do you sense already in the short time you've had Ava?
Well, I'll just say exactly what my husband said. Is he said we didn't realize how much we needed her until we met her, and that's it. She's completed our family. We didn't realize we had a hole until we met Ava, and she filled it perfectly. And she is, everyone's like, oh well, do you still love her the same? I'm like, I can't even tell a difference between the two loves, my two kids. There's not a thing. So she literally just completes our family. She's an amazing little girl, and we are so blessed to have her. People say, oh, she's lucky. No, we're lucky.
Crystal, you are a person that has so many talents because you're able to seemingly, to me, to be involved in so many things. This last week, we had major winter storm, and you were serving like 30 people from your neighborhood who didn't have power. And then you're out there. You could be like the mayor of Rockwall. You probably will be someday. I'm going to advocate for that. But how in a few seconds, kind of how do you do it? I mean, is there some secret sauce to allowing you to do what you do and be fulfilled like I know you are in so many ways?
I get energy from other people. I'm not someone who gets drained by other people. I get energy from other people. And so that's it. I've always had a high work ethic and like a high energy. And so it just comes naturally. It does. And I think that's what we're supposed to do on earth, is to help other people and to be there for others and be a support system. And that's our mission in life. So yeah, that's how I do it. And espresso.
An espresso. There you go. All right. Well, listen, Casey, let's put up the donation link for CASA, because people might want to also just directly donate. As I said, proceeds from book sales this week will also be going to CASA. So you purchase books or for your friends or buy a bunch for your tribe, whatever it is, that's going to help Lone Star CASA. But also, if you'd like to, just through the stories we've shared this morning with Lauren and Crystal, like to be directly involved in that capacity. And if you're local, and well, you don't have to be local because Lone Star CASA is nationwide. So let me just put it out there, folks, wherever you are, just Google CASA. Would that be correct? Yeah, and find out where the organization could potentially use your help wherever you may be. It's a great place to get started if you're looking for your why. So, Lauren and Crystal, thank you so much for being with us. And if you have time, if you in your busy days and the work you do, we're going to be doing kind of a final celebration today at about 1:40 Central Time. So if you're available to come back, you may certainly do so. We will welcome you back, but I know you've got things to do. So thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Laura Brenner, thank you so much for being here today. I've been looking forward to this so much. This is obviously the big launch day for the book, but for me, it's a celebration of people like you that I've had the blessing and opportunity to connect with, and that's one of my freedom assets in the book. As you know, it's your freedom asset is relationships, your network, and I know that that's huge for you. It's huge for me. It's huge for most of the people that the circles we run in is like who your relationship capital is one of the biggest ones. So I want to give our audience a little bit of a background where you and I connected. So we're both licensed and dangerous dentists, but I haven't picked up a handpiece for quite a few years, and neither have you, I believe. Would that be fair?
It's been almost 10 years for me.
Yeah. So, and also we also both graduated from the same alma mater, Baylor. Well, it's Texas A&M now, but back when we were there, Baylor College of Dentistry. Now, to be fair, I was there way before Laura, so we're not the same generation, but we did go to the same school. And I think you remember you told me one time you saw on the lab bench on the second year that I carved my initials there and with a skull and crossbones because it was kind of a tough day for me doing that practical, but. Laura, let's talk about the fallacy of formal education, which is what we're all taught to go do to be quote successful in life, to have security. We all find that we go through school, high school, college, graduate school, because that's kind of the mantra of success. It's going to set you free. It's going to give you a lot of opportunity in life, and a lot of us step down that road dutifully, and then maybe found out there's something here that just doesn't feel right. And I know that you have opened the door to a lot of people, professionals that have done that. They've put in the time, the effort, and actually doing good work, but they just don't feel like it's for them. It's fulfilling. Speak to that a little bit, either from your own personal standpoint or from the people that you have surrounded yourself with that you're helping today.
Yeah. Well, I just first want to say thanks for having me. It's great to see you and it's great to be here. And I'm so excited for your book launch and all the great things you're doing. So for me, I always loved school and I still like it. I love learning. But at the same time, what I'm seeing is it almost railroads us in, right? And not to say that we shouldn't go to school and appreciate it, but we should still be open-minded, because what school did for me, and I know did for a lot of other dentists, is it made us think that that was all we were or all we are and all we know. So oftentimes the most common thing I hear, and I used to say when I was feeling like, okay, I got into this career, it was supposed to promise me this wonderful, beautiful future. And when I got there, it just didn't feel good. And I wasn't being fulfilled while I was basically, sacrificing myself and taking care of everyone else. I wasn't taking care of myself. And when I got there and felt like, hey, this isn't what it was supposed to be, and I don't really like this that much, but I don't have any other skills, right? Because this formal education of going into high school, then college, then dental school, I came out thinking, dental school is so specific. It teaches us one skill. And so now that I'm not loving that skill, I can't do anything else. What can I do?
Right. So what have you determined, not only for yourself, but for other people that you coach and counsel in this regard, about feeling some constriction in their current career pathway, who feel the same way? Because you're right. The specialized technical skills that we learn in a program that gets from general to more and more narrow over time, it is limiting. And so how did you find your way to start developing other skill sets? And what are some of those skill sets that you have further developed? Because they're all inherent inside of us. It's just that they got put to the side because we got very specialized. What have you found, either for yourself or for other people, that you start to see people start to blossom when they create the permission and kind of the space to develop some of those?
Yeah. So for me, it's really just was getting out of my own way and getting out of my head, because well, currently we all have those skills, like you said, we just don't know them. So even if we are like, even practice owners, I talk about practice owners are the best entrepreneurs, but we don't see it as that because it's kind of a normal thing that we do. So for me, it was really getting into, I had to work with a coach. I had to get therapy. I had to do a lot of personal development. And it was really sort of seeing that I am so much more than this driller and filler who only knows these technical skills. And so it was one, getting myself to believe it through all this personal development, but also getting into action and just having fun with it. Honestly, when I first started, I call it exploring and experimenting. When I first started that, I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. And I thought that I had to be perfect at it, right? Like if I'm going to explore something out of dentistry, I have to pick the right thing right now. It has to be the first best option.
Well, I wonder where that came from in your history. I mean, that was kind of like what we were like hounded over every day in dental school. It's like, if you're not perfect, you didn't make the mark, right? So there's no experimenting, no exploring, was there?
None at all. It is black and white. And so, yeah. So that actually can paralyze us, and it paralyzed me. And I spent probably, I told you I was out for 10 years. I was in for 10 years too. And I spent probably 7 of those 10 years just really unhappy because I knew this was not what I wanted to do, but I also knew that I needed to find something else. But because I couldn't, like you said, like I just couldn't pick that one thing, I had no option. So it was really sort of like, stop taking myself so seriously. And I did crazy things. Like I brewed gluten-free beer in my basement. And if you guys, like people who know me, kind of laugh because I'm not a beer drinker, but my husband loves beer. And it was, a time in the market when that seemed like a neat thing. And I love the entrepreneurial thing. So it was for me just playing with things. And, when we would go to CE, when I would go to like the big dental convention, I stopped taking dental CE. I always went for the nutrition and the personal development stuff. So those are ways that we can start to cultivate and just take the pressure off. That's what happened for me, that we don't have to follow this straight line. It's almost never a straight line.
And here's the problem. You just talked about, some clues. When you went to take dental CE, you were more interested in the ancillary topics. That's a clue. Yet what would, if you exposed yourself, meaning you told other people that, and I'm more interested in this over here, what would they tell you typically? Wait a minute, Dr. Laura Brenner, you have all this time and capital invested in being a dentist. Shame on you. Get back to the chair. That's what society says, right? I mean, so it's giving yourself that permission. And that's a hard thing to do when everybody else around us are like naysayers. Oh, no, you don't. You spend all this time doing this. You got to keep doing that. What do you say to that kind of that sunk cost fallacy that the society tends to put over people's heads? How did you break from that? And how was your husband supportive of this? Because sometimes that could be a conflict too. Maybe it's not so about income, but it could be just the same thing. Like, wait a minute, you spent all these years becoming a dentist and you don't want to do that anymore. So give me some of that feedback on how you gave yourself permission and how that worked in your family.
Could you just get out of my head, by the way? I think you're reading my mind. So really, you said permission. And for me, where that started was with my husband. And one normal day, like every other day, I came home and I was complaining and I was upset and I was probably crying and I was up with insomnia. And he said to me, we can't do this anymore. He was like, you need to change something. And I joke that it was a bit of an ultimatum. It was like, he said, we can't do this. Like our marriage is not going to last. But it wasn't really an ultimatum. It was permission. And he said, whatever we need to do, if we need to sell our house, let's do it. But we can't do this anymore. So that was really like the first step, was that permission. And then, other people do say those things because they're not used to breaking the mold. And so they want what's best for you. They really mean well. But it can send you 2 steps back if you're listening to them. So for me, I know that negative feelings are difficult, but it was desperation that drove me. I knew that I could not do this any longer, my day to day. And so I knew I just had to really fight for it and do it. And once you kind of get out of that mindset of that you're fighting for it, it can be really fun. And, here's one other thing I want to say that this is sort of like a newer epiphany to me, is when I was going through this process, I just judged myself the whole time. It was like, what's wrong with you? Everyone else is happy in dentistry. Why aren't you happy in dentistry? And maybe you're lazy. Oh, maybe I just don't like to work. Right. And it was all these tricks that my brain played on me from this mentality that we get in dentistry. And looking back now, I think I was just figuring it out, like I thought I had to have all the answers. And once I fixed this problem, was I going to search for another problem? Because we get in these phases where if your career is not great for you, you really feel that in every aspect of your life. So you think there's something wrong with you. But looking back now, it's like, that was just part of the journey, right? That was part of the ride. And if going into dentistry and becoming a dentist was the job that helped me learn about all these things about myself, so I knew what's next, then why not? Instead, we often think that dentistry is our final destination.
Yes.
And so in any career, you could say that. But
Yes.
It's very freeing to just look at it as it's just another stop.
Oh, those are such good insights. And I know what you found, because you just said you felt that like you were the only one, like everybody else that's in dentistry, in this case, our profession, they all love it. They all love it. Is that really a fact? What have you found? Because you kind of cracked the egg on that one. So tell our audience how you open up and how vulnerable you were about actually stating your feelings, which is like a big no-no. I mean, my gosh, talk about how you feel. Talk about what you put out. Was it like about 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. So, well, really quickly, one of the things I did was I got into blogging, and I'm not a writer. So talk about like putting yourself out there and just doing something, right? I wrote about food and travel just to get my creative juices flowing, and it really helps a lot. I think 6 people read my blog. Mm-hmm. And then one day I found this blog post that was titled 10 Reasons I Hate the Dentist. And I was like, all right, thanks, honey. Here's 10 reasons your dentist probably hates you too, So I did. I titled it 10 Reasons Your Dentist Probably Hates You Too. And I posted it. And that night it went viral. And actually that was a huge turning point for me, David, because going viral, that was the moment when I realized that I wasn't the only one. Oh my gosh, there are people in Egypt and, Canada and Chile, like people everywhere who are at least dentists feel just like I felt. And so it was really amazing. So putting that out there connected me with dentists, really all over the world. And we just started having conversations, and which does lead to your relationship piece of and what's your next, is that really helped me. I had cheerleaders from all over the world cheering me on, saying, how did you do this? I want to do it too. And that kept me going, because it's so easy to get sucked back into our old patterns.
So I think there's a great lesson there, is we have to get over allowing others to judge us. Because as long as we let others, society, whoever, industry, profession, parents, teachers, mentors, people in your community, whoever, if we allow people to judge us and kind of set their agenda on us, how can we ever feel like we have the opportunity and the permission to explore? So here's the lesson, I think. Be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing somewhere to open up, because then you got the feedback to say, number one, that you were not alone in your feelings. Well, that helps a lot. But who else is willing to do that? Very few people. So you did it. So with that feedback, and now relationships that you were building, again, as you said, one of the key aspects I put in the book in terms of Freedom Assets, relationships. Talk to us a little bit about where that's taking you now. Because I didn't really talk about what you're doing now. Neither of us have a handpiece in our hands anymore. But to tell the audience how you've grown and how you've grown in serving in a new capacity that's really got you invigorated.
Right. Well, so when that happened, I still didn't really know where I was going. I waited till I officially quit dentistry because I didn't want any patients to see it and I didn't want to offend them. But I had started a side gig. I was doing weight loss coaching. So I mentioned that I had gone to all these CE events for nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me into this side gig. And so I did have something going on. And really, that was in 2011. And then I just kept dabbling. And when that happened, at one point I said to myself, I know someday I'm going to go become a coach and help other people with their dental career design, let's call it.
Yeah.
And so it took me 6 more years to get back into deciding to do this. And through that time, I would still email people all the time. I would connect with different dentists who would send me emails and ask me for advice. And we would just chat and we would make relationships and friendships. And what's amazing is I'll talk about vulnerable. After a while, I stopped caring about my patients because I didn't feel connected to them. But I really started caring so much about all these other dentists because we were so connected and experiencing the same thing. So that's a long way of saying ultimately it allowed me to come back. And when I started this, I basically just turned my blog and all these relationships into a coaching business. And now, my mission is to really change the dialogue in dentistry because I love what you're doing because we both have the same mission and vision, I think, is that we really want to get rid of this stigma that, there's only one way to be a dentist. And it's so exciting to do that. So that's where I am now. I'm a coach. I love helping dentists design what else they can do.
Yeah, because this doesn't mean they have to leave the profession by any means, right? I mean, you can keep doing what you've been doing, but now you're I think fulfilling other passions in life that maybe, to our discussion earlier, is we tend to box those up, put those aside, and say can't do that. Got to be this, right? Got to wear this hat. Can only do it that way. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing there. Of the 5 freedom assets, investing in yourself, investing in your business to make it a real business, investing in relationships, investing in capital or your investments on the side, and investing in legacy, your long-term purpose, meaning impact. Which of those resonates most for you right now where you are?
Right now, today, it's probably the business because I'm so excited to share what I have. And when you get that belief, it becomes so much easier. It helps me push through. Now, by the way, I also want to add that the reason I can say business today is because I already told you how I chose relationships. And even before that, I chose the personal investment.
Yes.
But today it's like I can push through hard times. If I make a mistake today, which I don't think I have, so I can just say that's okay because I know in my heart that I'm doing what I want to do, and I know I'm impacting other people in a way that I never felt like I was impacting. I didn't want to help people before, but now when you know how you can help people and do what you love at the same time, it then opens up all these different avenues.
I have a feeling that, Laura, you no longer have what many would term Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening syndrome, right? I mean, I'm guessing just by what I know about you, the time we spent, you're passionate, you love what you're doing. But did you, in years past, as a dentist, did you have those feelings of Sunday night, evening, and about the next day, going back to the work?
Absolutely. And what one time my husband said to me, don't you understand that everyone has the Sunday night blues? And I was like, no, I don't think you understand what these are. This is like, I'm dying inside every Sunday night, because I can't go do this. So yeah, it feels great. You know what else I'd add to that? The seasonal affective disorder that people feel depressed in the winter. I love winter now. I don't mind it at all. I mean, I like the warmer weather better, but those things do not bother you anymore. And sometimes when we're in that situation, we think that it's actually us. But it helps to realize that it could be our circumstances.
Yeah, so good. Where can people find you, like out there on the internet? What's the best site, Laura?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Dr. Lullabies, so Dr. Lullabies, and my website is lullabiescareercoaching.com.
Perfect. Hey, thanks so much for being here. I love collaborating with you and others that I think have found their next and are just really enjoying life. And the more people we can help do that, I think that's where life is at.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Laura Brenner, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, David.
David Richter,
Hey,
how are you, sir? Great to see
having-
you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, I hope your time in the green room backstage was well done. Did you have refreshments and people coddling you and taking care of you?
Yes,
That would be your wife Angela, I'm sure. But I mean,
Yes.
you know, the virtual green room. We want to make sure we had their own green room. So I'm glad it was set up well for you, sir.
Yes, it was. It gave me time to set up the What's Your Next behind me too. I finished that book over this weekend, so it was incredible book. So thank you for getting me a copy, an early copy of that for sure.
Well, my pleasure, my pleasure. So I believe, without absolute vetting, I believe you're my youngest launch party today, part of our live stream, and that was on purpose because you and I met. I'm guessing it's been good 5 years ago, give or take, and
Yep.
saw you working with a team, good friends that we have to this day in a business, and I think you were young, you had just been recently married and really starting your pathway forward. My quick question to you, David, for people that are watching us today is, what kind of degree did you graduate with and from where?
I graduated with a teaching degree, secondary education from a private college up in Northwest Indiana. So probably a lot of people haven't heard of it. So that's my educational background. So that's where I got my bachelor's in secondary education.
And how much time did you spend in secondary education?
About zero.
About zero. That's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't spent much time at all in the actual secondary education. I've taught Sunday school and I been a part of my churches and stuff, but no, not professionally. That has never been my professional career.
Now, was that on purpose? I mean, or did you get into that degree process and somewhere along the line decided, yeah, I'm not actually going to go teach secondary education? Where did that come about?
A good friend of mine gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad in college, and that unlocked the mentality of there's other options out there and there's other ways to go down and other paths to go down, and that's what really started me on a different path as far as the professional path and being able to help more people. And I really liked the secondary education. I like to teach. I like the teaching aspect, but I said, I want to be able to, this was the first time I'd been exposed to something like that. So that's really what got me off the path of okay, just go the traditional route, get a job, come home, do all that stuff. So that's what really catapulted it. That was the catalyst.
So it sounds like there has always been an entrepreneurial spirit within you, and when you looked at what your degree would provide for you, going into that industry, call it that, right? Is it maybe a little bit rigid?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
All right. So again, because we know it's very important. I mean, great teachers are absolutely needed in the schools today, more than ever. So it wasn't like you didn't see you could not have an impact. I know you could because I know you. But what you're saying is you looked broadly enough at that point early in your life and said, I could do that because that's kind of what most people, I guess, do when they have a degree in secondary education. They're going to go be teachers. I mean, that's what most probably did, right?
Yep, exactly.
And nothing wrong with that, as long as that fits who they are. But you looked at life with maybe a little bit bigger lens. Was that hard to do? Was there any people around you, your parents or friends and peers in school, when you kind of said, I'm not going to go do that kind of looked at you funny and wait a minute? I mean, what gives? I mean, did you get any of that kind of feedback from anybody?
Not really, which is surprising because, a lot of people go through that. But in my sphere, I've always been very, very grateful for the people I've had around me, because a lot of the people around me, like my parents, especially my parents. And then when I got married too, my wife was totally on board. So that's, so in college, before I was married and, going down this path, my parents were all for, what are you really here to do, and what do you need to do? And so they were always a big support to me, but I've always had good people. Like, that's why I say any success I've had into this point, it's been on the shoulders of others. And like, I've had really good people in my life that's given me the right mindset, the proper guidance, the love, like, I don't have any excuse for not like giving back to them. And like, that's why I'm very humbled to be where I am. Cause I get it. A lot of people start to go down this path and people are like, they're nuts, like, or whatnot. Now I'll probably say, like most people, I was probably my biggest critic, like, and can be at times. It's like, and that's why I love your first chapter, one of the investing in yourself, because no matter, like, I even had a lot of people behind me saying that, but then I still have the thoughts like, can I really do this? Like, is this really the path for me? And like, we all go through that period, I think, no matter what. But I think that's why I love your first chapter so much, because I have to constantly do that. Even with all the love and support I have to make sure, like, okay, I have the right mindset, and making sure that I invest in myself, because if I stop that, it won't matter, because I'll slide back into like the mindset, of the masses of basically, going backwards, and I never want to do that. So I would say I had a lot of good people in my life, not a lot of people tearing me down. I'm probably my biggest critic, at this point, or most of my life.
So you said a lot there it's been my same experience in life, and I always tell people that the environment that we create for ourselves. Now, when we're young and we're in a family, I mean, that is the environment. We don't really have a lot to say about that, right?
Right.
But in this case, you were blessed to have that early environment with people, your parents, people that they surrounded you with, or put you in environments where it was uplifting and never a what I call a should society. You should, you need to, right? It was like giving you the permission to explore and be you, and never saying you need to be a teacher. Yeah, you'd be really good at that, Dave. So go be a teacher. And a lot of people kind of get that, right? Their early position in life, someone anoints them with a skill set that they probably have, right? And says, bingo, go do that. And off you go, because a lot of us are good little soldiers, and we'll go do what people tell us to do. Even I mean, well-meaning people that have no basis for harm for us. They think that they're helping us, but I think by constricting, especially young people, constricting them too early is a big mistake. I mean, you would agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That the opportunity to explore, try things, maybe find your way, and not get in this construct that I got to go from high school to the graduate school, or the trade school, or the professional school, or the graduate school. You got to keep going on this path because everybody else says you got to keep going. I mean, is it okay, David, to someone there to take a breath and go, I'm just going to kind of like you did, I think, without jumping right into secondary education, to go, I'm going to, look around a little bit and see what else I could do. Talk about that. Like what was your first step instead of going into secondary education? What did you go do first?
During college, near the end of college, I bought a deal like during college, and I actually went out, found that first deal, and fixed it up and had some renters in it before I got married. And then I moved into it after that, and with my wife. And that was my first introduction to it. And that was kind of like right at the tail end of the college career. And so I also, at that same time too, as I was doing that deal, was looking for an investing company to work with. Like, even if I could just intern to get some knowledge. And I did that for about 8 months. I would go in on like Saturdays, or like have different meetings, and like say, what can I do? Like, how can I provide value? I don't need a salary or anything right now, but like, this is the path I'm looking to go down. I'd like to help you out. I'd like to test it for myself too. And of course the guy was like, yeah, like, let's do that, because it was just helping him out, bringing him value. And at the same time, I was getting to learn, and I was getting to see, a business in operation. So that was really one of the things that helped me understand and be like, okay, at the end of that time, I really like this, and I want to transition into this and to help people. And at that same time too, during that course of over that time, we moved out of that house and sold it and got like the capital gains. And, like, we had lived in it for 2 years. So I saw that and was like, yeah, I want to keep going down this path, because I really like the opportunities it can afford there, and to help, and to help grow ourselves and help grow other people. So that was really my introduction to it, was kind of interning for a while on like nights, weekends, during that time to be able to get that information and bring value to them also.
So interesting that you and I both, I think, made these mindset moves from a book. Now, I've read Kiyosaki's books, and I think they're outstanding books about giving those frameworks. So that's a big one that a lot of people that I talk to, it did change their lives. I mean, made it different. So I give Kiyosaki a lot of credit for the creation of the model that he's so well articulated through his books. I'm just going to show you the one that started me off that you might have appreciation for. It's William Nickerson, How I Turned 1,000 Well into 3 million. He chased 3 million. Now, it was written back in the 50s, Dave. Do you think it still applies at all today?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm like you. I was in college. I was supposed to be reading like books on mammalian physiology and biology and plant biology and botany and stuff. But and I did it. I did what I had to do. But again, it should have been a clue. It should have been a clue to me, because when I picked up a book like that, it's like, this stuff is fun. And so like you, I started very early when I was still in school, first year in dental school, not quite as early as you did going back into college, but I was reading these books in college, and then got my dad to help me invest in the first rental property. So had kind of like the same experience. Like, okay, got this capital gain profit. We invested one time in this one asset and, added some kind of value to it. What had to manage it, or someone had to manage it. Okay, got that. But the hours I spent, putting the deal together as you did, managing it for about almost 4 years, and then taking a capital gain profit on the back end, that capital gain profit, my half was way more than all of the money and tips I made waiting tables on nights and weekends. And to me, that was a clue. Okay, I can go out and trade time for dollars in dentistry, or you could have done it being a teacher, no question about it. But wait a minute, there's this thing called capital investments, capital assets, that if I learn how to utilize those, that it could provide for me a secondary income stream and build wealth at the same time, if I care to do so, that can then allow me maybe to experiment more with my life and not have to feel like I'm compelled to seek safety, security. Right. Talk to me about that, because now, again, you had great people supporting you. Angela, key person to support you, because frankly, a lot of women, well, I'd say most women, and you can disagree with me, but most women, one of their biggest love languages, I guess, would be like security, stability, security, right? I mean, that's kind of like really high at the top, loyalty, but security. And a lot of people equate that security with having a job with a good company or a good profession or something, right? And you're not kind of like going right in that. You're taking this Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 4 quadrant stuff and going, hey, I think there's something over here. So did Angela come from the same sort of mindset, or how did that work out?
Thankfully, during this time, it was making sure that I made the security important to her too. That we had, that I was going to tell her that I'm going to provide no matter what. And especially when I launched my own business, that was probably the time we had the most talks, was like, is this going to support us? Is this going to really get us where we need to be? And she said, well, I trust you, like up to this point, I have no reason not to trust you. So like, let's do this, especially with the upside that we can have, because after seeing real estate for years and being in that world and seeing kind of like the alternative, and then launching my own business that I have now, it was more like, okay, I trust you. And honestly, when I first went into this business, I replaced my income from the other sources right away with the business, because of like how I had researched, studied, and how I launched it too, because I knew like I had to get to this point at the, like this dollar amount just to make sure I'm covered. And then from there, we were good to go. And it's like just building the business and building a true business from that point. So I think it was having very clear conversations with her saying, this is what we need. I know I can supply this. And then there's basically on top of this are the bonuses that we get from building the business, or buying a rental, or buying a fix and flip, or doing a wholesale deal or something like that. So it was honestly just making sure that the conversations and the communication was open and having those conversations.
So important. I find in the work I get to do and blessed to do with a lot of the people in Freedom Founders, that many have been married, in some cases for many, many years, and they've lived good lives and raised good families. But we find so often that that conversation about the real dream and vision that maybe they had as young marrieds kind of dissipates, because lives get busy and got families, and maybe you're working 2 different careers and all this stuff, and that that initial dream about what it was just kind of gets foggy out there.
Yeah.
I think having clarity, which is I think a big key that you said there. I think a key lesson here is clarity of your mutual dream and vision. And when you can start to be concrete about that, then you can build to design, right? You can build this life, this business to design. So let's go down that track a little bit, because you know from the book that of my 5 freedom assets, number 2 is investing in your business. Now, most small businesses are AKA jobs.
Yes.
They're jobs. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you go in, you wear all the hats and you create a business, but you got to show up every day and you got to be there. And, I mean, that's kind of typical business. I know you look at it very differently because you had insights very early on from your dad, from your internship, and you and Angela together made a decision to do it differently. So you said something about clarity and kind of your number. In the book, I talk about the freedom number, that freedom number. What do you need in a business, a real business, where it's not dependent upon you doing everything? Doesn't mean you're totally away from the business, but where you've got revenue that is produced out of the business on a regular basis, whether you show up or not. How much of that comes from the business? How much are you doing in other capital assets like you and Angela are doing with real estate? And together, if you've got enough of that, quote, passive income, then you've met your freedom number. Kind of changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. It does. Change the whole perspective.
So with a few minutes we have left here, I know a big part of your business, and I want to talk about that because I think it's very important. Through a mutual friend, Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the first generation of his Profit First book, which has been out for a number of years, and now he's trained and has vetted accountants and people in the financial world across the country, probably across the world, to look at this very thing about clarity and your numbers differently. Well, you've taken that with his work with his company, your affiliation, and tell us a little bit about what your business looks like today, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. Simple CFO Solutions was birthed out of seeing real estate investing companies and that we don't have the basic education of the financial and how to handle the finances. That's where Profit First, that book by Mike Michalowicz, really gives a simple system. So I reached out to him after we were implementing the Profit First cash flow system in real estate investing businesses. I reached out to him last year, Mike Michalowicz, and said, I think there needs to be a book specifically for real estate investing because, like I've seen this over and over again, and how it can change people and how it gives them the power to make those decisions and gives them clarity in their numbers and with the Profit First system. And so that's where I contracted with him, and that's where now, getting the Profit First, I have the intellectual property for Profit First for real estate investing, and just trying to get that message out, because that was a big investment in the business too last year, was going down that path and getting the licensing and making sure, going through all of that. But now the message is too important to get out. Just like your message, David, is what's your next? I love that. I absolutely love that question. But it's also, making sure we get this message out. And so I did. I found that, and I wanted to say, this is working. It's changing lives. So I have to get that message out. It's too important to just keep it bottled up, even within our company. I just have to get a book out there or something to get the message out to help people, because there's so many people in a bad spot in their finances who don't want to talk about it. So it gives them a platform to be secure in their finances. Oh,
really, really good, Dave. You mentioned early that, your internship, mentors, books you read, relationships, another one of my 5 freedom assets. Relationships is a big part of your life, your growth, what's your next. And I know that you participate in a number of different community mastermind groups. You've made that affiliation intentional. Just give us a little piece of why that's important and how you found it to be beneficial to you. Well, that's a part of, investing in relationships and investing in myself, making sure that I can provide value to others. And I'm looking for masterminds to join that I can bring value to them, and making sure that I, in turn, make sure that I grow as a person, because that's why I go to these masterminds. I want to make sure that not only can I give back, but what can I do to become better, to be able to give more to others. And that's, in 2020, I spent about 6 figures, just on masterminds or self-education. And where through the business, and I was able to actually track that. And I think that's another big reason why we are getting this message out, because I've invested in those relationships, and because I truly want to bring value and want to keep leveling myself up, because the more I can invest in myself in the relationships, the more I can bring value to other people. And it's
all about bringing value to me. And that's why the message with Profit First, I can see the big picture and want to really provide value. So that's why I joined those masterminds. It's to bring value to others and to bring that message and to make sure that I keep my iron sharpened. So that's one of the big things. And I know we have to go here real quick. If I can just comment one thing on the book that I really love,
Sure.
The fifth one, the fifth invest in the legacy. And I love the statement, absolutely love it, where you said legacy is not what you leave to others, to people, it's what you put in them.
Yes.
And that was so powerful to me because I have a 4-year-old daughter. So that was just a light bulb moment for me. And I really wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because I love that portion of the book so much.
Oh, Dave, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Appreciate you, feeding into the conversation today. You are on the road to doing great things, and I thank you for being here. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you, David.
I'll see you. Well, Mr. Jim Palmer,
there he is.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Gosh, behind you, there's like these little steps and looks like wide open space out there. I mean, where might you be, sir?
I'm on my boat. I'm on
boat.
the floating home, and you're one of the only people I would actually go to my closet and pick out one of 2 or 3 shirts that I have for our interview here, sir.
But gosh, Jim, it wasn't always that way. I mean, you guys haven't always lived on a boat, have you?
No, we're coming up on 4 years, David.
4 years.
And we set out on a 1-year journey, or we called it we're going to go on a big adventure for 1 year, and then we'll figure out our what's next. All right, on your title. And 3 months in, we figured, this is just far too much fun. So we're going to have to we're just going to keep doing this for as long as God tells us it's okay to do it, I guess.
So talking about what's next, I think a lot of people. There's a fear about stepping out of a comfort zone. I mean,
yes.
We talk about it all the time, Jim, and you. Just to let people know, Jim and I go back a lot of years. Met Jim in some other mastermind groups. I mean, 15 years ago, and I've always enjoyed Jim's collegiality, mentorship, who you are. And I actually jumped in to Jim's mastermind group. Gosh, it's been at least 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yes.
Right. And so again, I'm speaking obviously to what I believe in hugely here is relationships. Relationships are like everything in life, and mutual relationships. And here we are, 10, 15 years later, and we still have great engagement together, right? And just
mutual admiration society, I would say.
Totally. So where was I going with that? I wanted to introduce you a little bit, and I had a comment, and I just it shut out the door. Does that ever happen to you?
No. Oh no, never.
Well, I think where I was going was is it's easy to get into a comfort zone in life, right?
Yes.
I say where people like treading
doing
water.
big things, right?
Yeah,
right.
You're treading water. You got to a point in life where you got some stability, security. You're kind of doing the thing that you trained for, your business, your profession, whatever, right? But I think people get in that kind of a stagnant place in life where after so many years of doing the same thing, and there's just really not, there's things that are not fulfilled about, and sometimes I don't even know what they are. It's like they think, well, I need to make my business bigger.
Right.
I need more profit. Maybe they do need more profit, but I need to make something bigger. I need to make something more happen. And I think there's a lack of clarity on what those things are that are maybe missing. And there's a fear about if I change the current model, I might screw this whole thing up. You help people speak to some of those for me, if you would.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I had to speed read your book last night because the mailman couldn't find me.
So, they couldn't find you. You're always moving.
I know it's probably on the water somewhere. But, one of the things that I think is so important, and it really happened to me, is when I started, of course, there's no overnight success. I mean, my first 10 years, 80 hours a week, just making it really. But then everything started clicking into place. And I think for about 3 or 4 years, David, when I bought my first boat, and then I went to just coaching 3 days a week so I could have like this long weekend and go be on my boat, which was a lifelong dream fulfilled. And part of that, I started feeling guilty. First of all, Monday morning, I'm at the marina literally by myself, and I'm looking around and go, God, everybody in the world's at work, and I'm not. And I felt guilty about that. That was number one. But when we decided 3 years later to sell our home of 38 years and sell one of the cars and to buy this boat and go off on this big adventure. I've never driven a 50-foot boat before. I've never been in the Atlantic Ocean other than on a ferry to Martha's Vineyard when I was 10 years old. I mean, we've done some things. Stephanie and I honestly look back and go, how are we still alive, let alone still floating? The learning curve was very steep. But that's actually why I wrote, my last book, Just Say Yes, because I realized after we did this that I had slipped into that 3 to 4 year comfort zone. So the money's coming in, good. I'm satisfying this. We're really socking away for retirement, making up for lost time. All that stuff was happening. But I realized that I wasn't taking chances any longer, David. I was like really, in some respects, I'd say I was enjoying the fruits of my labor. But when things got good, I got comfortable. And I realized by doing this and having some really pee your pants, scary, God save me moments on the boat, I realized, wow, we're really living again. And that caused me to, reflect on entrepreneurship and doing other things. So kind of a long answer, but it also circles back to, and you and I, we talked, I don't know, about 2 months ago or so. And I said, you have to have the courage, because you have to have the courage to actually live the life you've dreamed about when you get there. Because so many people like years ago, God, if I could, my dream was, I want to work 3 days a week. I want to be able to live life on my terms. And then when I sort of get there, I'm like, I feel weird about it, like guilty. And should I keep growing? And, it's even, the financial person we work with. Well, Jim, maybe you should just work 4 days a week. We'll get to that magic number soon. I don't want to do that.
Right.
This is the life I love, and I'm making it work for me. So it's really having the courage to live the life that so many people are working towards. Because, I saw your first guest, and you were talking about end of life, or actually, no, when you first came on, David, about the things later on in life when you're only going to regret the things you didn't do. I mean, sadly, so many people drop dead right at their desks, still working for more. So that was probably a half-assed answer to your question. I guess.
That's great. No, that's a great answer. No, thanks for fleshing that out. Let me ask you a little bit about a phrase or 2 words I use in the book, and I use in a lot of my discussions with people. But I use the word inflection points, which can be turning points, events. Could be people, significant people in one's life, positive or negative. Could be resources that we've reallocated to change, like you did a business structure. But I know you've got a number. We all do. Would you like to talk about an inflection point in your life that changed dynamics and changed the way you and Stephanie maybe were looking at your life at that time?
And just to prove, I did speed read the book last night. You wrote something. Boaters are skilled at navigating rip currents. I said, he wrote that for me. So, yeah. So I think and I totally agree with that. And I think the biggest rip current for me as an entrepreneur, David, was once and for all slaying the demons, as I call them, the fears, the progress killing, head trash. I call it my little voice, which never shuts up. That's always impeding your growth. It's always preventing you from doing big things. When I finally, in 2009, I started writing books. I finally killed literally a lifelong fear of public speaking. I mean, I almost didn't graduate high school because I would be out the day I'd have to stand in front of history and read the book or whatever. Yeah. Somehow I moved through my whole career avoiding that. But now it's like, I could really substantially grow my business if I could go speak about the book I just wrote and get on stages and talk about No Hassle Newsletters and all these different things, but it was huge. So I did a lot of things. I know we're short on time, but I did many things to get over that. Turns out I'm a pretty good speaker. It's hard to shut me up once you get me going, right? Wind me up and pull the string or whatever. And then I started doing my own live events. Again, a huge fear, all too well. You don't just say, hey, come here and everybody pays you money. Man, you're committing to the hotel, food and beverage. You have to commit to so many sleeping rooms. I mean, there's so much money you put into it before you sell ticket one.
That's right.
And I did 8 of them. I did 8 Dream Business Academy events, kind of before COVID shut everybody down. But that to me was an inflection point, and it was slaying and quieting that little voice. And part of it, which is sort of the title, Just Say Yes, is when something in your head goes, well, what if it doesn't work? Say, well, shut the hell up. What if it does work? Right. And move forward.
Yes.
And so much of what stops entrepreneurs, I think at the root of it is a fear. And that to me is based in embarrassment. What's going to happen to me, that very first Dream Business Academy in Las Vegas, what happens if I get up there and I utterly just stumble and turn red and pee my pants? I mean, just all the horrific things you think. Or what if I do really good and we break for lunch and then I come back and go, I just gave everything I know and I got 2.5 days to go. But you have to step into those fears because that's what keeps us alive, right?
Yeah, well, and also stepping in those fears also gives us feedback because it keeps us going, but also gives us feedback to know whether we figured out exactly what that next step should be. Like you doing your first event in Vegas, I was there for that. It was a great event. It was a great event, but that also seeded your the next thing, right? Or doing more events, or
that's right,
or it gives you a different perspective on how you can continue to help the clients that you have. I mean, the feedback's immeasurable, right? And if you don't step out and try some things, you'll never get feedback. Then you don't know what direction to go.
It's just swirling inside your head, right? So you have to do it. I mean, just to talk about the public speaking thing, man, I joined all these groups. I did Dale Carnegie. I went to a professional hypnotist. I did everything because I felt time was running away. This is the one thing that I brought from home, my home office, and you've seen this, is my hourglass, because a little over 20 years ago, when I first had cancer, I didn't know if I'd be alive in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I never forget, the sand is always running out. So if you think you're going to, next year I'll do this, or next year I'll write my book, next year I'll speak, next year I'll do whatever, you're never going to stop it. You just got to keep going.
Yeah. So true. So true. So I was going to ask you, how is everything that you have kind of transpired through, you and Stephanie, and your business and your life and your family, and of course you've changed your model of coaching clients. So you have it down to 3 days a week. You're out on the water. So you've really built a business that supports the lifestyle that you and Stephanie want, which is the opposite of what most of us do. And I can raise my hand high and say, my early business and career was definitely dictated to me by the way it said, this is how you have to do it. If you're going to be successful and have security for your family, then you chose this program and training, and now you got to go do it this way. And I did, and it provided me a certain level of certainly lifestyle and security for the family, but there was pieces missing. And this is not my story here today. I want to talk to you, but my inflection point, as was my daughter Jenna, which turned my thinking around and made me step out of that secure, safe place of doing dentistry and say, hey, also, can I make this happen? Well, like you, hey, I'm a big introvert. Unless I'm with people like you, I sit back. Speaking in front of people on a stage, same thing. I had to just get out over that and just stumble out there a few times and just realize that you can do what you want to do, and don't let fear hold you back. So in remodeling your business is where I was going with this. What gives you passion to keep doing what you're doing? Because obviously, you figure out a way to do it and make sense for you in your lifestyle. But what gets you up every day, or what the clients you work with, or the masterminds, what gives you that passion to let's do it again?
Because I think every entrepreneur reaches a certain point where you feel like the magic is happening, like you're figuring it all out for a while. And, I believe it's your, I think you call them investment points, right? Number 2 is business.
Yes.
I don't think your business is merely a paycheck from a company you own. I think your business should give you the opportunity to live life on your terms. Besides the fact that you don't have to report to anybody, which we still do, but it should be providing you that lifestyle. And again, then have the courage to live it. But the other thing I think, and this is where your work is so important, David, is your business should become a vehicle for worry-free retirement, whether you sell the business or the business affords you to get into the multiple streams of revenue, whether it's real estate or whatever. Let your business be the thing that works for you instead of you just working for a company that you own. Okay. I forget where I was going. Did I answer that? Because the little voice said, Jim, that was not what he asked you.
No. That was good. That was good. So what do you think is your next? I mean,
excuse me. I know you asked me about what drives you. So remember 5 minutes ago, you said, do you ever forget where you're going? Well, there we go. You're not alone. So when I started, I started No Hassle newsletters, and then Concierge Print Mail on Demand, No Hassle social media, Success Advantage Pub. Started these little companies, and people were like, wow, how are you doing that? And that's when I started coaching in 2009, David. And to me, when I started coaching, it was like another revenue stream. Well, let me share some of my stuff. There'll be a monthly fee, etc. And then a transition point happened. I don't know, it was 5 years or 6 years ago. But when I started having some success in that my clients were having some great successes, I'm like, wow. And so my expression to people that I help start coaching programs now is, if you do it right, the paycheck's good. But when someone tells you, man, you just helped me double, I doubled my business this year, or I did this, or I did that. I mean, that's what causes you to beam, right? Like, like a proud parent would beam. And I actually liken being a coach to a parent because, people will come, they'll stay for a while, and then they'll fly off. Well, back in my 3rd or 4th year, when someone was with me for a year or two, and then they'd leave, I go, what the hell? What am I doing wrong? And then actually Stephanie says, you gave them everything they came for. It's kind of like they're going to fly away now and do well, and you should be happy about that. So there is that parenting aspect to it, I think, that is fulfilling. But, if you ask me, you a coach? No, I don't go to coaching school. I don't know how to do that. Well, all the things that I've gone through, from the unemployment and the debt and the cancer and the struggles and the businesses, that helped form me to be a coach today that I didn't see coming. But all the other stuff, like No Hassle newsletters, the print business, kind of runs on autopilot with some virtual assistants. But helping my coaching clients, that's what lights me up. And that's what gets me out of bed. As I say, the paycheck is good, but when you have when you make a difference in people's lives, and I know that you know this well, that's what really lights you up. And that's why you have no more, what did you call it, the previous guest, the Sunday evening, the Sunday evening, holy crap, I got to go back to work.
Yeah. No, so good. So which of the 5 freedom assets, investing in yourself, your business, which we've talked about, relationships, investing capital, so you got other capital investments, and then legacy. Which of those? We want to pick one of those and talk about one of those we haven't talked about already.
I'm going to say legacy now, and I'm 62, so I'm not ancient, but I have some thoughts in my head that I didn't have when I was 42. Clearly. And I think legacy, as you said, in the end, it's not what you're able to achieve in business, but your legacy is going to be who you are, and actually more importantly, who you become. But it's also going to become, I think, your legacy, for your kids, your grandkids, and et cetera, and your community. It's what did you do with your time while you were here on earth? Because I think Judgment Day comes for everybody, right? And I'll share this real quick. I know you're familiar with this story, but I think it was after I've done my 4th Dream Business Academy. I remember sitting on my first boat and just thinking, man, things are great. And then I started wondering, why are things great? Why am I so blessed? I know people struggle here and why. And I just I had this dream, and I started reliving different parts of my life. And when I woke up, I go, wow, in a way, if you don't mind me being very personal, God just showed a video of the things that I was doing in my life that he found acceptable or found pleasure in. And he said, keep doing that. Right. And that wasn't always me. That was not me by a long shot. I used to think, you put a $5 bill in the offering plate when it went by was a big deal. Right. So I started learning that not only are we here to help those less fortunate and serve more. A great mentor of mine who just recently passed said, he goes, Jim, God just doesn't want your money. He wants your time. And that's when I got involved with Good Works, where I was rehabbing homes for low-income people. And so I just felt relieved to know why I was being blessed. But then the next shoe dropped, David, and God said, I want you to get this message out. And I'm like, nah, I'm not John Denver in that movie. I can't, that's not me. And it really made it impossible for me to say no. So I recorded an audiobook called Serve First. I just told the story in a longer version than I'm telling you now. And I put it on my website on a page which has no opt-in because I didn't want any barrier to the information getting out. And I checked on that. It's been up there for probably 5 years. And it's been downloaded like 30,000 times. I have no idea who those people are, how they found it, or whatever. But it's my example of me being somebody who didn't really have strong faith to then, thanks to cancer and everything else, coming into faith. But then realizing when you're blessed, you have to pay it forward. That's probably not the right term, but you have to create your legacy. Because, as I say, sooner or later, we're all going to have to answer for what we did while we were here. So I'm really focused on my legacy. I'm trying to be a really good grandfather and not just, buy a gift and spend 5 minutes on a birthday. We have grandkids come down and spend days with us. And it's a wonderful thing. So I feel legacy is the most that rang true with me the most of all of them in your book, David.
Well, Jim, as you said, we are living our legacy every day. It's not something we leave at the end, but we're doing it every day. And there's an opportunity in some form or fashion to be leaving that legacy, that impact in the people that we care about, that we serve, whatever capacity that is. I mean, you have an opportunity every day to do that. So, well, you came on early and you said, guilt was a big part of what sometimes held you back from creating this dream lifestyle, the Dream Business Academy, and living on a boat. I hope you feel a little bit guilty today that you are where you are and I am where I am in a I'm just gonna leave it there, but don't feel too guilty because you deserve it.
I know. I will close with this. I'd like to tell everybody, as you know, because you've heard me speak a number of times, this is not a dress rehearsal. We're on the main stage right now.
Yeah.
So that curtain eventually is going to come down. So if you're standing on the sidelines waiting for yourself to feel ready, by the way, you will never feel ready to do something you've never done before. Right. Go out there and create a business, be an entrepreneur, create a business that will allow you to live your lifestyle that you desire. And when you get there, have the courage to actually live it and not just keep going and going and going.
Well said. Jim Palmer, thanks for being here.
Thank you, so David. Much. Great job on the book. And maybe I'll actually fish it out of the lake someday.
We'll get it to you. All right. Take care. Hey, Sean. Good to see you, brother. How are you?
I am great, man. How are you doing?
Doing super well. Well, thank you for taking some time out today to be here. One of the keys in my life, and I know for your life, and I wrote in the book of the 5 freedom assets that I laid out as frameworks in the book is relationships. And you and I, through mutual friends, had the opportunity to engage together in a seminar, small group. It's been 5 or 6 years ago. I can't believe how fast time goes by. But you've always been one, even before I had a chance to meet you personally, that your presence with the people that you, I think, have influence beyond your family, beyond your community, beyond your faith, but just in the world of a lot of it was real estate people, and that's sort of how we met. Is you've always been a person to me that's been really in that leadership model. You've taken lessons that you've learned in your life and principles, and you have helped so many people, I think, redesign their lives with much more intention. And I think today that's where a huge struggle lies for everybody. And I have that struggle all the time. We talk about leadership boardroom. We're all trying to live this life of principle and impact and serve our families, and yet life can very quickly get out of control. Talk to us a little bit, because this is a big part of why I think we exist today in our purpose. Give us a little bit of your backstory, if you will, and how you've kind of evolved, and how you're helping people gain more clarity about who they are and changing their life into a design that works better for them.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. It's been this never-ending journey of what the heck is life about? What are we here for? Why are we all trying to create a business to make more money? And, is that the only purpose behind business? And I went through a lot of this stuff myself and built a real estate business up to where, we were flipping 70, 80 houses a year and, doing other things according to how the world says we're supposed to do them. And I woke up one day and wasn't real happy with all of it. I built a business and a life that had a lot of expenses to live and run and manage and maintain. And, it gets you waking up one day going, what the heck am I doing all this for? And I struggled with it. Matter of fact, I struggled even more with it when I started getting asked to teach other people how to build a business like I had built for myself, because quite frankly, I had built a business that was making lots of money and doing lots of deals, but it certainly wasn't providing freedom. And so what does freedom mean? And then you get freedom and you go, okay, now I've got freedom. Now what do I do with it? Yeah. It's like, it's this constant never ending journey of what the heck are we here for? And what does that look like? I got to say, man, I've been challenged by your book. I just got it a couple of days ago and didn't have time to read it until this morning, but I've been diving into it all morning this morning, maybe about halfway through it or so. And you're asking a lot of really, really good questions in here, man. So you got me in a deep thought moment today. But you're asking questions like, what do relationships look like, and what does legacy look like, and how much of your time and energy and focus and efforts are you pouring into business, and what's the purpose behind all of it? Are you designing a business that you can one day get away from and retire from, or what's the meaning of that? You said something in there that really hit me. You said, why are you just waiting for your golden years? And the golden years can start now. I don't care whether you're 18 years old or 50. And anyway, I'm going on and on here for a second, but man, you got me thinking with some stuff in this book today.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, I appreciate it. Well, a lot of us are, I think, built. We're kind of we're driven. A lot of we work a lot of A-type people, drivers.
Oh, yeah.
We're responsible, right? I'll persevere, kind of the rugged individualist, and I'll take on whatever. And I'm kind of built to go build, and we tend to define success by how society defines success.
Oh yeah.
Right. So where do you live? Kind of how does your family look? And, the cars you drive, and maybe you talk about, we took this great vacation trip here, there. And that kind of achievement based success, we know, and a lot of people we know, it falls very fallow. It's like, it's empty. It's your point. Any one of us can build a business that can be producing a lot, but what does that really mean? And is that taking us away from where we really can have more impact? Like who's really what, and who is really more important? And it's hard to find that balance in there, right? Because we do need to provide security and safety for our family. That's a big part of who we are. But we take on the way society tends to dictate. This is how you do it, and this is how it's measured. Maybe the measurement's not right. Again, you've done a lot of work with people and helping them shift their thinking on that. Give us some insights into people who do struggle and they actually are willing to say, hey, maybe I have achieved this and this and this, and people kind of laud on me and say, oh, you're so great, but inside, I don't feel so great. How do you help them shift that thinking and actually have remove the fear from making a shift? Because we kind of get comfortable with something, even though it may be not working for us, but if I pull that away, am I going to be nothing? All right.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when I first started going through this stuff years ago, I remember sitting on my front porch one day, and I remember weeping because I read Ecclesiastes in the Bible, and it was written by a guy named Solomon, who was the wealthiest, wisest, most successful dude that's ever lived. And the whole premise behind this particular chapter was, this too is meaningless. He's like, I got more cattle than everyone, and this was meaningless. And I got more land than everyone, and this was meaningless. And when you haven't hit the let's call it the pinnacle of success or wealth or whatever it is, you don't understand this. And I'm not suggesting I'm the pinnacle of anything, but what I am saying is I've gotten to a point where I've made, $100,000 in a day. And it was one of the worst days of my life. And it was because I realized I just made more money than I've ever made in my life. And yet I'm not free today. I don't feel any different today than I did yesterday. I might have a little more money in the bank, but I thought that was the thing that was supposed to answer all the questions, and here we are hit with these marketing messages thousands and thousands of times a day that are constantly reminding you that what you have, what you are, the things that you own and possess, it's not enough. You're not free enough. You're not wealthy enough, you're not cool enough, and one day when you get the car and you get the woman and you get the whatever, insert here, then you're going to be enough. And, for those fortunate enough to hit that, they learn really quickly. I say fortunate enough, they learn really quickly that it's never enough, And so, well, what's the answer? Well, the answer lies in, what do you want your life to look like? It lies in you defining in advance, before the world tells you all day, every single day, what your life should look like, or your parents or your siblings or your business partner or your spouse telling you what life should look like. It involves you sitting down and saying, what do I want the vision for my own life to look like? And hopefully you got God along the way, kind of giving you some pointers, that would be really spectacular. But the challenge is most people are going through life with a definition of what success is based on what somebody else has taught them, never based on what they've defined it as themselves. So that day I made $100,000, it was a defining moment for me. It was a moment of huge amounts of depression, bawling my eyes out on my front porch because I'm sitting here going, this too is meaningless. And it's like, if this is meaningless, then what is the meaning? Well, I don't know, but it ain't this. And this is the whole package that I've been sold, So I think from that moment until now, what I work on with my leadership boardroom coaching members, and David, we're honored to have you as a part of this, man. But I love what you're doing with the book and what it is that you're trying to share with your people. The question every day since then is, what does that mean? I was just hearing Jim on the last call talk about legacy, and I think legacy is really important. At some point, we're going to sit in front of our Creator, and he's either going to say one of two things. Either going to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," or he's going to say, "Away from me, evildoer, I never knew you."
Yes.
And so my big question is, what does it mean to get the response of "well done, good and faithful servant"? Sometimes what I think is "well done, good and faithful servant" is not. It's self-serving. It's me trying to pursue my own everything that I want when it may not be in line with what he wants for me. So I don't mean to go off on too many tangents here. I got so many thoughts going in my head from reading this book today, but man, what does that mean? Does it mean just making a bunch of money and, leaving a trust fund aside for your kids? I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And I've coached a lot of people over the years who end up reaching that pinnacle of success. Here, I coach a guy who, worked really hard to build up his business. He got 100 rental properties, then had another goal to pay all those rental properties off, hit that goal, then said, well, I can do 100, might as well do 200, did 200, paid all those off. And then, last year at the peak of the market here, he feels like we're at the top of our, sells them all. He's got millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You would think this is like, everything should be great now. And he goes through a full-blown depression for a year where he has no clue who he is if he's not the guy acquiring 200 free and clear rental properties. It's like, who the heck am I?
Yeah.
He's reached all of the financial goals. So now his drive and ambition is gone. It's like, who am I if I'm not the guy pursuing 200 free and clear rental properties? He doesn't know. And I would argue that a lot of that is because he pursued a lofty goal, and he hit the goal, but he didn't have a vision in place. And so, there's vision precedes all of this, by the way.
It does. And I think we get into a position in life, like the friend you were talking about, or anybody in any business, or you get a title, you have some respect in the community because of who you are. And that's all great. Being a leader is great. But if everything that you wear as far as your identity and your worth is based on what you do in a trade, a business profession, and there's not more than that, then how can you actually evolve and go to a what's next? Say even when people get to that point, Sean, in life where, I don't like the word to use, but their retirements, right? I mean, I hate that because that's such an end point, such a finality. It's like retired, like, come on, right? But so the problem people have is certainly there's a financial aspect to that, so they got to have enough money. But the second one, I see it all the time with my group of Freedom Founders, with doctors who have been dedicated to the cause for 30, 40 years, done it well. Now they get to that point where they'd like to maybe transition because they really haven't lived a life defined by other than other people's definition of success. So now it's like, well, I'd like to actually take some time now. Well, wait a minute, who am I?
Yeah,
I'm not the doctor. I don't have a value because I don't go to this office where I had support staff that respected me and I was valuable to them. And these patients that came every day, and I helped them. And I never built out any other part of my life that could be I could add value because I was just too busy, too busy. And now I'm lacking fulfillment. So kind of like your friend's depressed because he couldn't go out and do another 200 houses if he doesn't do it. And so how do we talk to people that are driven, they're hardworking, they're responsible, they have integrity, but give them like the permission, the opportunity to find other means of having impact? Because that's, in the end, isn't that what we're talking about, Sean, is significance? I mean, isn't that, after all the millions of dollars in the houses and the business, isn't that really what it comes down to?
It depends on who you are. Some people value significance very, very greatly. And that matter of fact, I would argue that that's a challenge, is that when significance is one of your top driving needs, I don't know that you're ever going to be fulfilled, because there's never such thing as enough significance. And now there's different ways to achieve significance. I can get significance through having the coolest car and the biggest house and the largest bank account. I can also get significance by contributing the most and loving the most. And the order of those, by the way, is really important. Am I contributing in order to be significant, or am I significantly contributing because I value contribution first? I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's a massive difference between the two. If contribution is my first and foremost biggest need that I value the most, then I may donate to a school to benefit the school, for example. But if significance is my number one driving need and I'm contributing to be significant, I might still donate to the school, but now I want my name on the outside of the building, right?
Yeah.
And so those are two completely different things. And so, but I think part of this is answering these tough questions. If you're not working, who are you? First of all, are you significant? I don't think any of us are really that significant. Doesn't mean we can't do significant things, but where do you get your significance? Do you get the ability to be important and significant and unique because of what you've accomplished? Well, good luck with that if someday those accomplishments are stripped from you. Right. Or like the example in your book, you said, I can't remember the couple's name, but you said they worked their whole lives to build up this huge retirement account, and that's how they're significant enough to retire. And all of a sudden the market changes and 2/3 of their retirement account's gone. It's like, well, no wonder. It's a pretty big wake-up call when you get all your significance and self-worth from what you've built. It doesn't equate to a very fulfilled life. And so where does fulfillment come from? That's a really good question. Certainly not from significance, I'll tell you that. It was certainly not long-term.
Your kids, grandkids at some point, what principles do you want them to learn and be able to apply? If you were having a discussion or thinking about how to sow into them as a father or a grandfather.
So a lot, but there's one thing that comes to mind, and mainly because this is fresh on my mind. It has to do with this pyramid that you put on your book I marked it on page 35 here. And what I like about the pyramid is that I'm guessing that you came up with this, correct, David? Because this is really good. Okay. So it's the 5 freedoms pyramid. It's got financial, time, relationships, health, and purpose. And I love this, and I haven't seen it broken out in a pyramid like this, although I've put a lot of thought into these things before. But what I would encourage you is your business can actually incorporate like all of these, and it can incorporate all of them at once. It doesn't have, I think some people view this as a stepping stone that says that like one day when my finances are there, then I'll have all the time that I need. And then when I have all the time, then I'll be able to have the relationships that I want. And then when I have all the relationships, then I'll be able to focus on my health. And then I'll really understand what my purpose is. And I love that you put this on here because that's not the case. Matter of fact, one of the things that we teach is how to build a business vision, how to design your business, not just with profits in mind first. That is really important for business, but your business should encompass your entire vision. Like it should encompass, who you are and what your desires are to give back to the world. And do those desires fit your own unique areas of gifting? And, then how can I be profitable with all of these things and a whole lot more? But, when I design my business, with what I do today, I put all of these things in mind when I built it. And so, of course, I want it to do well financially. I mean, that's what most people think the only purpose of business is, which I wouldn't agree with. But I also want the business to allow me to spend my time doing what I want. I don't want it to be a business that I'm trying to sell or that I'm hoping to one day retire from. I want to build it to where the time is I value so much that I actually don't even feel like I'm working. That doesn't mean I want to work 90 hours a week either. I want to spend time doing family and all the other things too. I want my kids to understand that. But, ultimately in my business, I want my business to assist in forming some unbelievable relationships. And so, I spend my time today with men and women who are business leaders, helping them to figure this stuff out.
Yes.
Right. And ultimately that is, I believe, what my purpose is. And so, man, the fact that can be turned into a business too, holy cow. Yes. I don't want to retire from business. I love what I do. And that doesn't mean that I don't want it to also provide some freedom and finances and all those other fun things too. But ultimately, man, the business stems from purpose down. That's why I love the triangle that you put here. And but you don't have to have one of these at the expense of the other.
No,
I'm glad that you're teaching this stuff, man. It's really, really important.
So Sean, what's your next? And in other words, are you? I mean, you're constantly been iterating your life as people should do. I mean, do you have a vision for as you continue to mold what you're doing now? You're loving life. You've got time for the people and other interests you have. But is there something else that you want to see that happens if you can articulate it today?
Yes, and I also have to be very, very careful with this because as an entrepreneur, I love your question, And for me personally, it's a question that can put me in danger if I'm not careful. What I mean by that is if I'm constantly looking at what my next is, sometimes I'm guilty of not living in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And, constantly living in the future is not a good thing for me. It can be good because I do need to plan, and I obviously need to have my own vision created and make sure I'm going in that direction. But for me right now, I had a little epiphany in the last couple of weeks that basically said, stop growing and get better. And I've been focused on growth a lot this last year. We've grown our company. We have more than 100 people in our leadership boardroom coaching organization now. We have 3 different coaches in addition to myself that are coaching high-level entrepreneurs and national speakers and people who run their own coaching organizations and so on. They're all pretty high-level guys and gals, but I don't need to get any bigger. What we need to do is focus on getting better, and we're already pretty good. I mean, not very many people leave once they're part of our program, but that doesn't mean we don't have room for improvement. So I am actually, my next for me is to stop trying to go bigger and get just better, make everything that we're doing better, make sure every single one of our members are just killing it in life and business and living their own purposes. And so that's kind of my next for right now, is to just take it easy and not even take it easy, but be challenged by something aside from just growth.
Yeah, I think that's so good. Growth becomes too much of a reference point, and I think I love. Let's get better. Hey, Sean McCloskey, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your support, and can't wait to see you.
I can't wait to see you too, man. Thanks for putting out good stuff like this. I love it.
We'll see you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, we're at a point here where we've got a few more guests coming on here very, very shortly, and hope you are enjoying these conversations. These are all people that have been significant in my life, as you probably get some of the relevance here. Relationships, as I wrote about in the book, as one of the 5 freedom assets, to me has been one of the huge aspects of my life that early on in my life I was not that focused on. I was one of those who felt like, as school teaches us, we have to do it all by ourselves. We have to take the test by ourselves. We have to graduate by ourselves, get the degrees, whatever. It's not a collaborative process. And so having the vulnerability to rely, or not necessarily rely, but collaborate with other people, find the right people to surround ourselves with other people who can help us get that clarity in life and give us the help us with the blind spots that we all have in our lives about where we are and really what's missing in our lives. It's hard to do that on a self-reflection by ourselves. Very difficult. I mean, we get to a certain point, but I found that sometimes the biggest clarity, the biggest inflection points for me, the biggest for my what's next has come through not my own headspace, but being around other people who number one, I have trust relationships with them. We've built over time the ability to find values that coexist together. So I like their values, I like their philosophy of life, I like the way they live their life. We're never one of us are perfect, but find those people who can weigh in without an agenda and give perspective. And when I'm thinking about trying this or doing that, or I've got a part of my life that isn't working as well as I want it to, and I'm trying to figure out, well, exactly, what is the conflict there? What is it that's holding me back? And I find other people can weigh in to that. So my next guest is one of those that I'm very privileged to bring on. Casey, let's go ahead, or Hannah, let's bring him on. There he is. I just talking about you without naming your name, David. So I'm so glad to have you here. I was just talking about the fact to the audience that in life, gaining clarity to what we're really passionate about and what we can kind of iterate to. Part of the book is what's your next is not staying stagnant, but having the perspective and the feedback from other people who you find some commonality and values. And just so people can know that, David, I met you through another one of our mutual friends, Carrie Wilkerson. It's been a little over 10 years ago. And again, I look first for qualities. You spoke from the stage, and what are the qualities? You come across as somebody that I feel like there's some common bonds, besides the fact that you've been, quote, successful in life, and you're doing things that have impact and running a business or businesses that do well. But what else is there behind the scene? And I'm pretty good at addressing those. So you were kind enough as part of a charitable contribution back 2010 at one of Carrie's events. You took me on as one of your individual coaching clients, and I'll never forget those days we spent in Houston, where you were helping me take kind of all the pieces of my puzzle, all these different parts of my life and experiences, but not really having a real ability to put those together. And I needed some outside perspective. And you really started the processes to help me start to elevate out of where I was in life into my next. So I just want to give you, hand you that. I've always been thankful for that relationship. And I want to know from your standpoint, relationships to you. I know they're huge, but could you give, our listeners today a little bit about how relationships have affected your life and will continue to do so?
I sure will. And thank you for having me. I hope that you hear me clearly.
Yes.
Congratulations on this amazing book. What's Your Next? I love the title, and I love the the whole idea of the book, because in life, we should always be thinking about what's your next, or you're not progressing, right? And in your book, you go over 5 different investments that you make. One of them is relationships. And here's a quote from your book about relationships. You say, too many people limit their networks to their professional associations, societies, and club meetings. Everything is all inside the same small box. If you want to play big, you need to play in a bigger box. And I will be the first one to tell you that if I had to do it all over again, I would probably attend more seminars and workshops and conferences and make it a point to meet new people. I didn't do that. I was kind of a homebody, and I think that was a mistake, and it limited me. Luckily, I did make some connections, but I want to say that I think, David, that the number one obstacle to success is our limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Like, it all starts in our mind. We talk a lot about skills and how to and things like that. But the fact is that so many dreams have never been realized simply because of our limiting beliefs. And when we, as you mentioned in the book, when we start interacting with people, even within our association, that's a good step one. But we start interacting with people outside of our association, we get a bigger vision for what we're doing and for our life, then it helps to dissolve some of those limiting beliefs, because you get challenged by other people. And sometimes that's not easy, right? When you sit in a hot seat, it's not easy. You hear some of those things. We always think, they don't understand my business. Right. They don't understand my situation.
My situation is different. Yeah, right?
Right. So I wanted you to comment a little bit about, and by the way, I'm prepared to talk about all 5. And if we have time, we ought to touch on all of them, because
So one thing I don't know about you, David, and might be interesting, is what degree did you graduate from your school, your formal education? What degree did you graduate with? I
got a master's degree in accounting from the number 2 ranked accounting program in the nation.
And how long did you spend in that field?
Accounting?
Yeah.
A total of 0 days. I took it long enough. I sat for the CPA exam, got my CPA and everything. And I realized that accounting was not what I wanted to do. But that education did help to boost me into what I wanted to do. It opened doors for me. It also helped me to learn how to learn, right? There is a lot of value in that. But no, I'm not doing anything remotely. My wife does all of our taxes and books, not me.
So wasn't that difficult to go through and get the accounting degree and get the CPA license and then not go put it to use? I mean, wasn't there some dissonance there? I don't know if it's from an income standpoint, because you're ready to go and be a CPA and you can make money doing that, but you had the state of mind to at a young age to go, yeah, but I'm not going to be happy doing that. But where was there conflict there, and how did you overcome the conflict to not get sucked into that?
Well, I think, as you say, success, you said this right in your book, quote, success is not dependent on the formal education process. It exists in spite of it.
Yeah.
And so when I was in the Navy, I was an electronics technician for 6 years. And I had a job, I got a job when I was in college fixing computers. And so with those two things on my resume and this accounting stuff, I got a job as a consultant for Arthur Andersen, which was the largest consulting firm in the world back then. And so, the education that led me to my very first really good job, which was, working for a large consulting firm, I didn't get in like formal education, like at college. And by the way, like, of course we need to go to college if we want to be a doctor or a lawyer. But even when those guys get their degrees, it's only starting points.
Right.
It's only starting points to their education. The education really happens is when they combine that with their experience and also continuing education.
Well, that's where a limiting belief comes from, because we believe that when you get that degree, that license, you pass the boards and whatever it might be, that's it. You're done. Now you just focus on that. And yes, you've got to keep your skill sets up in that particular focus point of your life. But without the self education, getting a broader sense of other skill sets that are probably just sitting there, ready to explode, because that specialized training tends to constrain us and keeps us from being able to really find other areas, which you were able to do because you said no to the accounting and said, hey, I'm gonna use some other skill sets and go over here.
It was scary. It was scary. I want to say one other thing though, too. There's a limiting belief. If you're in the corporate world and you're working constantly, you think you can't get an education because you don't have time to do that. But nowadays you have websites on the internet called like Udemy.
Yes.
For $10, $11, you can get really good courses and learn some really important skills. So if you just replace your Netflix with Udemy and spend that time, or as our friend Dan Kenny used to always say, turn your car into a rolling university. Every time we're in the car, if you're working in a corporate world, you're commuting usually. So you can easily, with all the podcasts, I never listen to radio anymore because I'm always listening to some podcast, educating myself. So there is time to get that other education.
Yeah, absolutely. The second freedom investment asset that I talk about is the business, and you're one who's had numerous businesses. Let's talk about business from the standpoint that most people look at it as a business. A small business owner, professional practice owner, it's really a job. It's really a job for most. They have not figured out how to create a business that really supports a lifestyle and would create any kind of annuity income at all. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, you said in your book that you worked for another dentist before you started your own practice.
Yes.
And that's what I'm telling my own son. I'm telling my own son, take some media buying courses, because I think, when you learn how to buy traffic online, the world is your oyster. But take some media buying courses and then go and work for a media buyer and become like a junior media buyer. Even if you got to make 15 grand a year, if you got to live in your mom's home and do it for free, because then they pay for your education.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what happened with you, Dr. Phelps, is that you got your education paid for because you were working for somebody else. And then it came time for you to step out on your own and start your own deal. And so, even if you take a huge pay cut to work for someone else, you got to look at it as your postgraduate education.
Too many want to get out because they've been living like a student or an intern too many years, and now they got the license. Now they have the potential to go earn the money, and they run right out there pell-mell. And I agree with you. I tell young people, particularly in my arena, David, that are young dentists coming out of school with potentially a lot of debt today, is like, I know they need to make some money to pay back the debt, but don't get in such a hurry to plant yourself in a practice or a situation just to make the money, because you have so much opportunity. If you will not look at the money, the return on your time right away as the measure of success, find the right people, because the learning opportunity there is huge if you'll take the time to find that opportunity, and they're there. It's just as
Let me tell you, I
right?
came to Houston and I interviewed with the 6 biggest consulting firms, and I got an offer from every single one of them, and I took the lowest offer. I
There you
took
go.
the lowest offer because it was Arthur Andersen. They were the most prestigious firm in our city, and and that's why they were offering the lowest offer, because they know they
You
could.
can do it. Yeah.
And I did, and I worked harder, and I learned more in that first job, which expanded my opportunities so I leapfrog. I left Arthur Andersen as an executive vice president of a $500 million company after only 4 years. 4 years. Because I took the lower pay cut to go with the better opportunity.
Huge wisdom there. We've talked a little bit already about relationships. Do you want anything else to that?
No.
Okay, we're good there. So let's talk about capital. So we have a business, we have discretionary income. We want to put it somewhere. We may put it into our business to the extent we want to. We've got some additional. So capital investments. How important is that today to teach young people? You talked about your son and wanting him to get involved in learning media buying. What would you have a young person look at in terms of making what money they have available to work for them outside of, say, their business?
Well, one of the things that really resonated with me in your book is you said, quote, "You should think of money as your employees. Your dollars should work as hard for you as you work for them." And I'm going to turn the tables. I want you to make a comment on that first.
Well, it's what I kind of figured out early in life when I got my dad to help me acquire the first investment property that we invested in together. And I was waiting tables nights and weekend. And when I added up the amount of time for money trade, and working at a good restaurant made me pretty good money. It was flexible hours, so not bad. But I compared that to the number of hours it took me to, quote, manage this asset once it was up and running, which was very few. And the return on my time was way greater in the capital asset than it was in me waiting tables. Now,
as compared to putting it into a savings account.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to find something. I'm biased towards real estate, but there's other investments that one can make that can still be more passive, but making that money work for you, compound for you, that you've created through the trade of your time is a critical aspect. Yes.
Right. So there's always higher. Now I'm going to talk from inexperience, because I don't feel like I have made my money work for me as well as I could have, except in one place. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but there's always a higher yield places to put your money besides the savings account. You should always have some in your savings account for a rainy day. Here in Texas, we just went through that ice storm. All the electricity was out. All the food shelves went bare. So listen, we should always have some money in our savings account. I'm not saying that, but there's always higher yield places that make your money work for you better than that savings account. Even if it's like a simple index fund, is probably better than a savings account. And real estate, like if you don't want to do on the ground real estate investor work, there are things called REITs, real estate investment trusts, that you can invest in. When you're a business owner, now this one that I can talk about, when you're a business owner, I think one of the best uses of your capital is to hire the right employees and train them.
Yes.
Because the more you can do that, the less you have to trade your time for dollars. Now they're trading their time for dollars, and you are building wealth. When you have employees and they follow proven systems in your business, that's what allows you to now work on your business instead of in your business. What book is that from?
That might be a Michael Gerber.
Michael Gerber.
Right. Yeah,
working on your business, and the only way that you're going to make your business grow is by working on your business and not in your business. And the only thing I will say, if you do start investing, diversify your portfolio, because I've
Yeah.
been bitten in the butt by not doing that.
Diversification, very, very important. All right, David, give me your best in a minute or so on how you look at legacy.
Legacy. Listen, when you eventually start making money and you start making a lot of money, you're going to find that's not going to bring you happiness. What you thought was going to bring you happiness, all that money, is really hollow. You will find that out. Trust me. You have found that out, David. I find it pretty much everybody who makes a lot of money eventually finds that out. You realize that the money doesn't bring you the happiness that you expected. Helping people who cannot repay you is what brings you happiness. And that can be done in any number of ways. And that's what David calls investing in your legacy in his book. That's one of his 5 investment pillars. I think in the Bible it's called sowing and reaping. You know, the more positive you sow out into the world, the more it's going to give you back in happiness and lasting joy. So, you know, paying tithing to your church, that is one thing if you're a church-going person. Finding a charity resonates with you. I sit on the board of Village Impact. We build schools over in Kenya. Find a family that needs support. But whatever you do, take a portion of that. Start building your legacy by investing back into helping people that can't repay you.
Yeah, so good and so important. Well, David Fry, you know, I appreciate our friendship immensely, and I appreciate you being here today with what's kind of become my passion book or project. So I thank you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your friendship.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations. Everybody should invest in this book.
Thanks, David. Jim Ingersoll. Yes, your hair looks good, sir.
I've been running.
You've been running. Oh, okay.
My head somehow.
Oh, wow. Well, be careful out there. Be careful. Well, hey, so glad to have you here. You know, I've been really having fun with, you know, you and I, we're both blessed to have so many friends in different circles that we've, some have been long-term friends, some could be more recent. And one of the things I talk about in my book is, as you know, is in the 5 freedom assets is relationships. And it seems like a lot of us on this live stream today, we've talked about that and how important it is. And I want to kind of give people a little bit of a clue as to, you know, where you and I met. And I don't know the exact date, Jim, but it was somewhere back in 2003, 4, or 5. I know it was before the last downturn, the last Great Recession. So it was a little bit before that. Our families, our kids were obviously much younger back then. And I remember, you know, getting to know you and realizing that, you know, you're kind of like the role model, or could be a poster boy for my book, because your education, formal education, is in is it both mechanical and electrical engineering?
Electrical engineering.
Okay. So and you actually were involved in that. I mean, some people actually got degrees in stuff that higher education and actually never used it, but you did for some time. And then today, other than I think being able to evaluate the electrical aspects and other things of real estate, probably don't do a whole lot with that degree today. You made a complete shift to what's your next. So let's talk about that a little bit, because it's always interesting to see what events or turning points, or I call them in the book inflection points, something that kind of turned the dime from the pathway that you were going on, and you and Cheryl in your early years, and you were, you know, in your career path. But there's something else that you know, piqued your interest over here, or set the stage for something else. Give our audience a little bit of what that looked like early on.
All right. Well, it's chapter 5, David. Relationships.
There you go.
You know, Jim Rohn is famous for saying you're the average of the 5, but I mean, you're famous for saying your network is your net worth, and really your network is your legacy, and it's everything. It pulls everything together. And you know, when I was in my early 20s, when Cheryl and I were married, I tried investing in real estate, and everything went bad. I didn't have a mentor, a mastermind. YouTube didn't exist, you know. And I was undercapitalized, and everything looked good on paper for $21,000 for a duplex, but it wasn't. And the reason for that is nobody taught me when I got my master's degree that you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. I was hanging out with engineers and other people, and that was it, you know? So, you know, that one little concept of relationships I didn't understand. And I struggled with that duplex to the day I sold it on a land contract and exited and moved to Virginia. And that cost me about 10 years of time. And when I went back in looking for people looking for people. I think that's how I found you at like a Jack Miller event, right?
Yep.
I was looking for some people that looked at life and alternate investing and stuff a little bit differently than the average people when I went to college to get my degree in electrical engineering. They didn't teach me anything about relationships or compound interest or any of that. They just taught me to be a great employee. Man, I was a good employee.
Yeah. And that's so true of any kind of higher education, Jim. And I can relate to that completely. You know, going down the path of going to become a dentist is that highly specialized training. And the people that, you know, were around in that arena, I mean, they're good people, like your engineers. They're good people, and they're focused on this one thing. So if that's all you're focusing on in life, then that's good people to hang with. But you realized that in order to expand your life, to iterate to what's your next, does take the encompassing of expanding your environment. And the environment includes people. I think it includes what you listen to, read, watch. You know, if you take stuff on TV, or if you listen to podcasts, or you're watching Netflix, or, you know, all those things have a bearing on how we start to grow as individuals, as people, and have the ability to not be just hamstrung by one model of, in this case, you know, earning income. That maybe it's good, but where's the plan B in that, right? If you can't. And so it's interesting that you talked about the fact that you took that initial foray into real estate when you were relatively young, and that was not a good experience. Just, you know, it was new and it didn't work out. It took you 10 years to kind of come back. So is there a lesson there? Would you?
Yeah.
I mean, you said you went to find people. So what? I mean, the lessons there. I mean, the fear aspect of, like, the fear of failure. I mean, that's huge, right? So you tried something, it's like, that didn't work, but you still felt like there's still something there. So talk about overcoming that a little bit.
Well, you got to have a why. You have to have a really strong why. And I mean, the reason I took 10 years off is because Cheryl said no more. So my wife was my why there for a while. But, you know, after climbing up like that corporate ladder so long, and I ended up running a couple of factories in the end, but all I really was like an indentured servant. You know, when I first moved to Virginia, it was crazy, David, because like we moved in July, and then when we packed up our moving truck in New York to move to Virginia, we packed it up and I flew to England for a week. Cheryl unpacked the whole thing here in Virginia while I was away. I came back, and literally 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to Shanghai, China. And then like a month later, I was going to Mexico. And I'm like, they told me like 20% corporate travel. You don't get that time back. And I started to realize that through that experience, that I had no control over my own freedom. I was a great employee, man. I was like helping people all over the world, you know, make lots of electronic equipment and stuff, but no, it was no good for me. And that's when I just started saying, like, there's got to be something else. And I started searching franchises, buying businesses, all these different things. And then I met you, and everything changed.
Well, I know it wasn't just me. I mean, it was a combination of all these things.
That exact timing.
Yeah, your inquisitiveness. Well, so obviously, Cheryl, like most of our amazing spouses, I mean, there's a reason why we marry people that in many ways, you know, counterbalance us. It doesn't mean we can't have a vision together, but to actually say, you know, hey, Jim, don't go back and do that again, because it looks like that duplex thing isn't going to work. But what was it was it the fact that you were doing all this traveling that allowed her to come back around and say, okay, maybe there, and you were probably having these conversations, you know, I mean, Cheryl, I'm not even here. And it's like, there's got to be a better way. So did that kind of bring the conversation around full circle?
Yeah, I mean, I was traveling a lot, and I was traveling domestic too. It wasn't just international, but I was gone a lot, and a lot of people can relate to that in corporate America. And, you know, all of a sudden, like, I think I was in China for either Cheryl's birthday or our anniversary, and I'm like trying to figure out how I'm going to like send something home, and I'm like, this is not what it's cracked up to be. I mean, and all the time, by the way, all you're doing is working on your income side of the statement. You're not working on your balance sheet. All I had was a measly little 401k that was going up, you know, a little bit,
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Jim? Those 401ks are awesome.
Yeah, right now, yeah, some people think they are, but I talked to somebody yesterday who's happy with his. But
Well, okay,
you
for
know,
now.
it's hard to save your way to freedom.
Yeah.
You have to like invest and learn how to leverage and learn how to build relationships. And that chapter 5 is great. That freedom asset on relationships is really critical, David. And that's why everyone needs to grab your book today. Congratulations.
Well, thanks. Well, it's really it's a compilation of just what you and I are talking about here. Is we all have a story. You've written books. We all have a story, and I think when we take the time at some point in our life and don't wait too long to reflect back on not all the great successes, because I mean everybody can point to some successes in life, right? But gosh, what were the learning points, right? What were the turning points? What were the inflection points that changed the course of our lives to improve what we really felt inside was always the vision? And again, you have to do that in concert with your spouse, assuming you're married or you have a family. You got to do that in concert. And I think having the clarity of the vision of what that looks like and how you're going to get there, you've got to have the support of the family. But you can only have the support if you've got a commonality in terms of what do we really want our life to look like? What's really important here? Is it, like you said, is it the income? I want the higher income so I can have the big house in the great neighborhood, or do I want more time? And how can I start building to have both? Security, to have, potentially wealth that provides freedom, but freedom of time, freedom of relationships, our health. It's so important that most people abdicate to like later in life when they're going to have it all put together. And it's like, now I don't have health. And then the big piece, which I know I want to get to here, I'm going to wait for a minute. I want to get to legacy, but let's hold off on that one because I know that's near and dear to you. But let's go back to the people for a minute, because you said earlier that when you came back around, about 10 years after you tried the first duplex, and now you're seeking people. So you're finding people because you realize people that are like-minded and also have gone down a path, maybe something similar to what you want to do. In this case, maybe it was in capital assets and real estate, but they also had figured some things out and also made some changes in their lives, which is not easy to do. It's not easy to go against the grain or go against the degree that you've had. But what did you find? What were you specifically looking for in some of those people? What did you find? Was there any one event or one person that you can remember that?
Well, certainly you're one of them, but I mean, I somehow I started reading, and when I was in corporate America, I didn't read anything. People need to read books. They need to buy your book right now because books change lives. Now I'm teaching my grandkids that, and they're saying that all the time. They're like, "Pop says books change lives." They do. They changed my life because I started reading books on business and entrepreneurship and habits and things like that, and they do change your life. And then somehow I connected, somebody told me I should check out Jack Miller. And then from Jack Miller, I met Peter Fortunato. And, Peter was really smart on finance. And then I met John Schaub and then I went to a Jimmy Napier event and he said, invest in debt.
You said I already have. I got lots of debt.
I probably did back then, not anymore. So yeah, and then when you get out, like, and you're willing to go, and Cheryl, I took Cheryl with me. I mean, you probably remember that. Mm-hmm. Some of those early events, she was very supportive, and I had to get out because the corporate swing, David, is like you go through periods of growth. And that's a lot of fun. You're doing like new startups and all this stuff, and it's all really fun. But then, like sometimes in corporate America, two different careers with me, the waves then crashed. And it's like all these people I hired, I got to lay off. I had to close 2 factories. And it's not fun to lay off every person in your factory. It sucks. And so you start with the wheels were turning, like there's got to be something else. And then at the same time, I was checking all this stuff and reading, and then I met you and Jack Miller and a whole lot of other people, and everything just started to compound from there, and it became a lot easier because I had the right relationships supporting me. And if you get a mentor or mastermind like Freedom Founders or whatever it is, get it around the right people because it makes all the difference.
What I think was common amongst all of us that consider ourselves entrepreneurs is that we had to get over the fear of failure. Yeah. Because I know for you as an engineer, for me as a dentist, you got to be You got to be very precise. I mean, if you make an egregious error, I mean, it can be extremely damaging. So I think for me, that kind of schooling took away my propensity to want to try things because, I was pounded over many years. You make a mistake here on this tooth. It wasn't a brain cell. It was a tooth, right? I mean, but if you make a mistake here, I mean, you're going to have to be demoted a whole level. It's like, I don't want, so what we had to do is get over that in life and be willing to try some things. And, one thing that you and I, just because I think, again, without having the context of what's your next, I think that's the way we've been. And you and I think it was 2012 when we did our cash flow seminar together?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So again, just letting the audience know here, we'll try stuff. Neither one of us came from a professional speaking background. We just came with our life story. Okay. And but I think what we both learned and say, let's teach something that we've learned. We're not like the experts of and all. We're always learning. Everybody's involved. Even the people you just mentioned that have been mentors in our lives, you should be always evolving. So there's always a next, there's always more to learn. So we put together this seminar. Gosh, we had about 35 people came in. We did our teaching back and forth. But what I found was that is taking what we've learned in our lives and downloading that IP, the intellectual property, which is our story, our experiences, and having the ability to provide that as a benefit to other people. And where I'm going with this, Jim, is because that's exactly who you are. You've taken all these things you've learned in your life, the twists and turns, the things that worked, things that didn't work. And from that little seminar we did, we've both kind of gone on. And part of what brings us exhilaration, I think, passion every day, is if we can sow something in other people's lives, which leads into the legacy. Isn't that a huge part of what drives you every day besides just the value to properties that you make?
It's much more, it's much better. Of course, the more impact you can make with other people. Yeah. I mean, I'm humbled that I've been able to work with a lot of people over the years, David, of course. And started way back, man. I was way outside my comfort zone flying to Dallas and doing that with you. And, neither of us were, even you weren't a unbelievably awesome speaker like you are now.
Never been unbelievably awesome. I just had to get up the guts to stand up there and try to fill 2 days worth of content.
Even worse was when we were in Las Vegas trying it, but that was a lot of fun too. And then we did real estate, wealth transfer, and we've done a lot. And you've just been a huge part of my success path, David, is you. So I want to just thank you for that, and thank you for using your gift of writing and doing your brand new book. What's your next? I mean, it's an amazing opportunity.
It's just, I find the journey is so much fun, Jim, when you get to do it with other people who are also on the journey. No one of us perfect in any regards. We can all laugh and talk about things that didn't work out. But the struggle and the journey is part of what makes life fun. It's not supposed to be, as you said, a smooth shot to anything. It's going to be twists and turns and ups and downs. But when you're doing it with other people, then the people that are honest about their trials and tribulations, you feel like it's okay that I didn't make this happen the right way the first time. I learned a lesson here, but taking those lessons, the compilation of that, and really being able to have a bigger impact. So with our last few minutes here, I do want to talk about that because obviously you have impacted a lot of lives through your conferences that I've been blessed to be a benefit, participate in there in Richmond, but also you have one of the largest real estate groups in the country that you started years and years ago, where I see you all have sewing into other people. You're inspiring people. You're telling them it's okay if this didn't work out, and just to step back up. And you've got people here to help you. But I want to talk about your kids, your daughters, and now your grandchildren. What important lessons have you to date you feel like you wanted to make sure you conveyed to your daughters and now to your amazing grandchildren, which are now totaling 3, and that's not going to probably be it. So where are you at with legacy and impact and next generation?
That's what life's really all about. But it's so much more than just finance, so I can teach my kids to buy assets that cash flow. And, if you do that in your 20s, like they are, I mean, good Lord, if I could go back in time and get, conventional financing, 30-year fixed, so easy, right? Just buy properties and cash flow. But, that's one thing. I can teach people to build wealth. I can teach them to make money. That's actually pretty easy. But, teaching people to keep their integrity and have character and have a strong reason why, and don't deviate on your faith, and like all these other things that are so much more important than just your financial legacy is what I've been thinking about lately. And David was just on a minute ago with you, did a really good job summarizing it. It's so much more than that. It's your integrity, your character, your belief system, your faith, your family. I mean, I want to be a great husband to Cheryl and an amazing father to Melissa and Krista, and a great, grandfather. They call me Pops to my 3 grandkids. And I want to be a good friend. I want to be a solid brother, a good son. You know what I mean? And those things, when people remember me, I had a friend who just lost his father last night at 62. So I've been thinking about this today. And it's like, what do you want people to remember? Those are the things that I care about. Not like how much. I don't care about leaving trust funds. Yeah. Those are dangerous anyways.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I got from my own dad was like a strong work ethic. So I thank him for that. So, work hard, have integrity, be a person of character, don't deviate on your faith. And, you can build wealth and make income and all that stuff easy, but those relationships are really critical.
So huge, so huge. Jim, I really appreciate, number one, I appreciate your friendship over all these years and the camaraderie. And thank you particularly for showing up here today, like the great friend you are, and just supporting, the efforts of the book and the impact that I wanted to have. So thank you.
Congratulations. Everybody grab their copy. I've got mine, and I've already been giving some copies away. So make sure you get yours and buy one to give away, and come back and give David an amazing review. It means so much to every author. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, Jim. See ya. Hey, Tony. How are you, sir?
Good. Well, first off, congratulations. Woohoo!
Thank you so much. It means a lot to have you here. I've had some amazing friends on today, and I come back and I think every time I think about, one of the biggest investments that you and I would both agree that are so important in our lives are relationships. And, our relationship started through one of our friends that was here earlier, was Jim Palmer. I mean, so again, the way these connections happen are not by coincidence, but, you have to step out of being, like I am, an introvert, step out and realize that life is about relationships. And there's so much broadening of our perspective in life when we can get outside the little boxes maybe we came out of our education, our formal education, that kind of puts us inside boxes of societies and trades, industries. It's so constraining. And not that we don't need people that are good at those specializations, but my goodness, life is so much broader, and that's who you are. Mind Capture, the Trailblazer books, and then now, Positive Disruption, which is such a great book because we're in such a disruptive period of our lives, of history right now. And people are like, what do I do with all this disruption and things that are outside my comfort zone that are causing me angst and that kind of thing. So, again, thank you for being here. And I've just enjoyed the opportunities we've had time to spend together, and some here today.
Well, David, a huge kudos to you. I'm going to hold your book up because I got it. I just got back from vacation. I started to read it last night. I'm about 35 pages in, and I'm excited to read more of it the next couple of days. But first off, congratulations. When you put a book out, I think for us guys, it's the closest we can get to maybe having a child, to birthing a book.
Well, go back and tell that to our wives. But that's
why they live longer than us, because they can do that. But seriously, David, I'm honored to be here today, and I really want to turn it back to you because when you write a book, it's a great amount of time and investment. And my question is, as a fellow writer of many books, and you've written many, is why did you write this? What was the genesis? Because you're a busy man, and I know you've got a lot of things you're doing. So why did you write What's Your Next?
Well, that's a great question. I think you're the first person to ask it today. The books I've done, most of the books I've done prior to this point have been about my bias but what I believe in terms of gaining some financial freedom in life is that being in control of your capital. And I've always loved real estate. Okay, I know you know that. So I've written some books that kind of that talk about the nuts and bolts mechanics of real estate, and I've always enjoyed real estate. And there's a creative process about that, and again, relationships and things that have all been good. But in my own life, Tony, I have found in the last, decade, since you and I have known each other, that I've also continued to evolve. And I realized that I think just a few years ago that I was, would be speaking to my members at a Freedom Founders event, which you've been to, and you're going to be a part of it next one in April, that my desire about what I spoke about was leaning away from the nuts and bolts mechanics of how wonderful real estate was. And that was a clue. That was a clue that I was starting to finally change my perspective about what I felt like was important. I still love real estate, and I'm a big believer of it. It's just I was feeling that I was evolving to wanting to carry a message for a little bit of a stronger torch, which was more about the why of life, who we are, and speak to a broader audience. I mean, I think, Tony, for me in my life right now, it's about impact. I've done a lot of other stuff, nothing perfectly in life, and I'm not done by any means, as you know. But I wanted to start speaking to a broader audience because I feel like there's so much opportunity still in this wonderful country we have, but I think so many freedoms are being taken away, or people today are abdicating their freedoms. And of course, we could go down the weeds with the whole thing this last year with the virus. But even more than that, people are abdicating to what they're being told to do. You should do this. You can't do that. And I think that's totally wrong. And kids today are also being led astray, I think, by still thinking that the only pathway to freedom, success, and security in life is you've got to take this formal education pathway to get XYZ degrees, go as high as you can up there, and that's it. And then, of course, today the world's moving so fast, Tony, that degree that you got, last month or last year is almost irrelevant, a year or two later. And so how are you preparing for these fast changes? Anyway, that's a long answer to your well-placed question.
Well, I just think as a fellow writer is to get to the heart of the matter is I've already got a couple books, so I'm going to be getting a hold of Lindsay. I've got 2 dental friends that are getting these books. They're not getting mine. This is the autograph one from you. So this is in my collection. But I'm getting it to them right away because they're younger guys. They're early to mid 30s. And I can see Dr. Elias right now and Jared and say, guys, take this and read from a mentor that's been down the path. And I'm not sure if they're familiar with their work, but to me, when you write a book, it's the biggest bargain on the planet, David. You're giving 30 or 40 years of your trial and errors, your stories, your defining moments. I was compelled by the story of your daughter because we had talked in years past. I didn't know the extent until you put it down, but that was your main why or your driver. And to open the book that way kept my attention. I'm like, oh my gosh, where is he going to take us? Like I said, I'm about 35, 40 pages in right now. So thank you for sharing that, because that's not easy to write about.
No, it's not. It's not. You know very, very well because you've written a number, but it is for me it's a passion project, and it also helps me in many ways to take my experiences and the things that are in my head, kind of the head knowledge I've got, but to actually have to frame it up and articulate it in a book helps me make those principles that I believe in, I'm convicted about, more concrete. And so I think that's a benefit there, because I think too much experience in life and lessons learned can go wasted if they're not transferred in some form. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be verbally or podcasts or whatever. But if we're not transferring the benefits of our learnings to the next generations or anybody who cares to hear them, then I think we're not being purposeful. It doesn't mean everybody has to write a book. Not saying that. You wouldn't say that either. But still, everybody can have impact on a certain number of people, whatever that impact is, your own family or your community or whatever. There's opportunity for us all to feed it so into other people. If we create enough space in our own lives and we're not so busy just going that we can't do it. And we've both faced those kind of challenges in our lives.
Well, I think what's awesome here, David, is on page 42, for example, I flipped ahead a couple pages, freedom assets. And there's one that I wanted to make sure I brought up to you during our short time together is invest in relationships. One of our central tie points was Jim Palmer.
Yes.
We coached with Jim. There's a picture you and I had a mastermind next to each other, I think in Las Vegas many years ago.
Yes.
And Dan Kennedy, wrote the forward to your book. He's written the forward to my books as well. That's a huge honor. David, talk to us about investing in relationships, because I've seen you literally go to Dan's home and invest, not spend, lots of dollars and time to work with Dan Kennedy. How did you get Dan to agree to do this? Because Dan doesn't always do this. That's a high honor.
I had to earn the right. You're right. It with Dan or most people that I think have earned the honor and respect of being great influencers or thought leaders. You can't just stroke a check. It's not that easy. I sort of tried that early on because I lost my fear of asking. I'm okay when people say no. Early in my life, no, I was fearful. I don't want to be rejected. But I, obviously, like you, I'd been around the Planet Dan for a number of years, read his books, gone to conferences where he'd be a keynote speaker, but never within his ring of tight, inner circle influence. One day it was at a large conference. There was probably 800, 1,000 people there. Happened to find an opportunity to kind of catch him in the hallway, right? And I don't think he probably even really knew who I was, but I still stepped up and said, kind of asked him, hey, Dan, I'd really be interested in being in your, top level mastermind. And he was very respectful of me, but he said, well, like, who are you working with now? Well, I was, working with other people that were, again, probably where I need to be at that time. There's always a time to escalate. You should always be trying to elevate, escalate yourself, but there's a right time. And Dan was kind enough to say, not yet, grasshopper. Come back around.
You are not alone, David.
but then I did. Then I did the work, and I continued to invest in relationships. So to your point, I've made it always a point to be involved in mastermind groups, and that's always an investment. It's an investment of time. Because you have to put capital in to be a part of a certain group. They don't let just anybody in. There's vetting, there's application, which there should be. And then there's the time commitment. Most of them, at least pre-COVID, you would meet 3-4 times a year and go and have to fly somewhere. So there's a time commitment. And I realized that as I started doing that and being part of different groups and meeting people, that's really where my next was going to come from. My ability to grow in my own life, in my own ability to be more, then I had to be part of other groups where I could meet the right people. And so, as I'm blessed to look back to all the people that, have transformed, given me transformation in my life, there's a whole slew. I know you have the same thing. It's a whole slew. And there's different circles of influence. There's the few that maybe you call it your five that, you've had for many years, and sometimes those people change a little bit, but you've got those core five that you're probably in touch with on a regular basis and you can go to for anything in your life. And there's another circle outside of that not quite as intimate, but still people well. You've been in groups, and those circles out there. So you can have different circles of relationships, but you should always be investing in those relationships because there's so much power. There's so much power in those relationships, and it's not a one-way street. It's not just I'm a taker. It's like I got to be able to contribute and so in other people's lives as well. I think that's where purpose of meaning comes from, where you can actually feel like I actually added to someone else's life. I didn't have to be like the smartest one to know everything because you don't.
Yeah. Well, I think the analogy is like someone's giving you a hand up if you're looking to be helped and you want to move. And at the same time, you're pulling someone up along the way, that chain of what I call positive growth. And, you look at mentors. I'll be candid. I'm a little nervous. I have a new coach I'm starting with this week coming up. And I'm going, wow, he's going to push me. Because he was really tough with me about working with him. And he called me about a month ago and said, if you're going to work with me, be prepared. So I'm going to another level of coaching. But let's go back to the book here. Again, I think a book is the biggest value on the planet Earth. It's all your expertise, your wisdom, your knowledge, your adversity, your triumphs. What was the biggest challenge you probably had and the biggest positive you got out of writing the book? So I want to go a little bit more of the challenge first, David, and then what was the really meaningful thing you got out of when you got the first copy? That first book you get and you go, oh, the smell of it. So give us adversity, and then what is the biggest reward?
The adversity for me is taking my collection of ideas, right? I mean, we never run out. Ideas, thoughts, the intellectual property, and figuring out how to organize. I need help with that. I leave a strew of a mess behind me wherever I go because I'm just spewing out ideas to my team and stuff. So you got to have somebody I think you have to collaborate on certain things. Projects, a book certainly be a project. So the biggest adversity, the challenge for me is probably saying I'm going to do this. So making the commitment and then finding the right person or people that can help align me because I can't carry the torch by myself. I have to be honest and say I'd like to say I could do everything myself and I'm that strong of character and abilities, but I'm not. I have a great team with Freedom Founders. That's what allows me to do what I do, to write a book. I can't just say I'm going to sit down at my keyboard and punch this out. It's just not going to happen, Tony. So the pivot and the right people to drive the project was the first thing. So now I'm committed. Like you had to commit to your coach. Now I commit. I commit. I put some serious dollars on the table because I'm joint venturing with people that this is what they help do and drive a project. So now I've committed to a timetable. I got to show up on a regular basis, and we're gonna the interviews come and they start downloading the stories from me, and then they help start to organize it. And of course, I mean, I get to have all the vetting during in between. So that's the adversity. That's the challenge. On the positive side. I think having a book done where I've put my heart and soul into it, and the idea is to leave lessons to in this case a wider impact than my other books before, that I can say that I sowed something, and to have people come back and like yourself or the people who have read the book, and if there's just one great takeaway, one thing they said, that right there, David, what you said here, or it made me think or challenged me, and because of that I did this, because of this, that whatever it might be, that to me, if I can get that kind of feedback, it will all be worth the effort.
Well, David, I think you did it. And I know from just being about 35 pages in, is the opening story last night just kept gripping me. I kept thinking of my own children. And I've had those type of moments, those defining, cliff moments where like, what do I want to do now? God, where do I go? And you have that real big epiphany, I think, last year with 2020, now going into 21, like we started out, the timeliness of this, not just the title, but I like how you're going broader now. So I can give this to the two young dentists that I'm going to get copies for and say, hey, guys, this just isn't about real estate. Right. Read this guy's story. He's a mentor and a friend. He's done it. He coaches. And just say, trust me, take the book. Because I think it's going to open their eyes. They have younger children, both of them. They may go, oh, wow, I could see the ghost of Christmas future or dentist future in a good way, and go, why not learn from someone that's already been down the path 20 or 30 years ahead of you and pull that wisdom out of a book like this? So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, thanks. Well, that's, it's the same for all of us, is I think if we can have that future vision of looking ahead in our own lives, wherever we are, and to look and at that point, whether it's when you're 60 or 70 or 80, but to be looking back, what is that going to feel like? What's that going to look like? Because it's hard to do that. It's hard to force ourselves out, because today is everything for us. Like, today's the day, right? And and to build a future pace, and look back, and I put it in the book because it was something that what struck me, and I oftentimes relate it to our Freedom Founders members, is that there's that palliative care nurse. You'll get to it in the book. Her name's Bronnie Ware, and she talks about the 5 regrets of the dying. You can Google it. The 5 regrets of the dying. She spends her time with people that are in their last days, weeks, or months in hospice. I mean, she's a palliative care nurse, and she relates the stories of the conversations she has, most particularly with the men, and their biggest accolades in life were never about their achievements, no matter how great they might have been. Never about achievements. It's always about the people, the relationships, the people, their families, or other significant relationships. And their biggest regrets were not putting more time into those. So again, the ability to future pace. My own father, who passed away just a few years ago, had the opportunity to interview him before his last days, and just again calling out that wisdom from people that are beyond where we are, have gone down a path already, and taking some of that and saying, how can I make that relevant to my life today? Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until someday, because someday may never come.
Well, David, this is so ironic. I mean, here's the other thing that most people know. You and I had the same birthday, July 24th. Yeah. We're fellow Leos, so hopefully we have many birthdays co-tandem together. But this happened a few years ago. We're in the middle of nowhere. Quick story here, Mackinac Island. I'm walking with my daughter on her father-daughter trip. Yeah. Speaking on the island, it's like 9 o'clock at night. There's 10 people on the road. And I go, Taylor, that's my friend and client, David, over there. We walk over, and you're literally on an island in the middle of northern Michigan. And my daughter got to see friends, clients, my work intercept. You couldn't have scripted that. The odds were like 1 in a billion. We're on this exotic island in the middle of summer speaking. I was there to do a keynote. You were there for a conference. I said, hey, David, I'll see you in Dallas like in 4 weeks. Right. So you and I think God or fate, however you define it, said, you two are going to keep running into each other literally or in the same circle. So you impacted my daughter positively, because she got to see my work and the people I network with literally on an island on a father-daughter trip. So thank you for that moment. That was hysterical.
Well, as you said, I think again, these things are not coincidental. We have to keep our eyes open. We have to put ourselves out there. God is not going to cannot do work on us or through us if we remain in a little tiny box in a cave. I mean, you've got to put yourself out there. And again, I'm a big introvert. It's not that comfortable for me to do that. But I've found in my life that the biggest transformations happen when I'm willing to get out of my comfort zone and do things that heretofore have not been necessarily comfortable. But by doing those things, I get out, I meet people, and it stimulates my thinking, and everything else in life, has a chance to move and evolve. And that's been my experience with you and so many people. I think our stories are amazingly similar in so many ways.
I want to give you this, a bow. Take a deep breath. You've been on this thing for a while, David. Congratulations. I'm super proud of you. I look forward to seeing you in Dallas. I'll be ordering some books, and we will be in touch, my friend. Well done.
So good. So good. Tony, thank you, sir. Thanks for being here. See ya. All right. Looks like we have the Brady bunch showing up here too. That's great.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Here they are. Here they come. Here they come. So team, I just want to honor you as people come. Hi, Olivia. As some of our team members of Freedom Founders are coming on here to kind of finish out this celebration today of the launch of the book, What's Your Next? I've talked to so many people today that have been great people in my life, and we talked so much about relationships. But I always have to come back and, hey, Lindsay, is tell people that is the impact and significance that we want to have in our lives, the purpose and the meaning, whatever that drive is you can't do it solo. I mean, you can't make very much happen if you try to carry that sack on your own back and do it by yourself. You can get so far, so many steps, and to learn to find the right people, to vet them out. People have similar philosophies of life, have similar enthusiasm about life, and just what can you put together in some form or fashion that can make it happen. So again, thank you, team, for being here. I've talked a lot about you today because I've talked about the fact that our mission and the people we serve, and I think the benefit that we get by seeing the changes in lives, the real transformations that happen. I mean, that's really at the base of everything what life is about. Yeah, you got to make money. Yeah, you've got to earn income. Yes, absolutely. Not putting that aside. As David would say, you can't live on fairies in the dust, right, Davey? But what are you doing that you can look back on in years to come and say, wow, that was a great time in my life because I was a part of this group and these people, and life's going to change. I mean, gang, we're not always going to be together in this fashion right here now today. I mean, hope it lasts for good, but life will change, life will go on. But the things we take out of these moments in time, the lessons we learn, the camaraderie, are things that will never leave us. No one can take them away from us, the experiences, and also gives the opportunity to sow it into other people, starting with our own family. Alex, for you and Amelia, with young son and young daughter, and just knowing who you are. What are some of the elements in the book, any of the principles that either you're finding useful to you with your family, or that you've seen help other people with their lives?
Absolutely, David. Well, first off, just congratulations to you and to the whole team here. This is a celebration of a long journey for you, and we're so excited about the book. We're proud of it. And this book really, I think, is your magnum opus. It has so much of what you've been teaching through Freedom Founders, just boiled down into a tight and digestible read. And so we're so excited about it. And for Amelia and I and our family, I think one of the principles that you teach in this book that has had a huge impact on us is the importance of investing in relationships. I think the quality of folks that are a part of your tribe, David, the quality of the folks that are part of our team here today on this screen is just a huge tribute to you as a leader and to this principle, you living this principle in your life. And there are a lot of folks out there in real estate. You can go find real estate gurus who have pictures with their private jets and their Lamborghinis. Like, those kinds of people are not a part of this tribe. The folks that are part of this tribe here at Freedom Founders and in your network, David, are they're down to earth, salt of the earth people that value character and integrity, and that are about more than just creating empires. They're about living life to the fullest and having more impact, and focusing more time, creating more time for what matters most. And that's something that is so important to Amelia and I, and we've learned so much about that through your leadership and through the principles that you share in this book. And we're grateful for that. We get to benefit from that network, and that's extraordinary. And that's extraordinary. So those principles are, I think, you spell those out so well in the book, and I think anyone would benefit from taking their focus off of skill sets and focusing on building their network, focusing on creating relationships with the right people.
Yeah, really great words of wisdom, Alex. Crystal, let me go to you next. You speaking of relationships, Crystal, you're like the magnum opus of relationships. What say you? Anything from the book that you feel like is something that you want to share?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this book with my aunt earlier today, and she had never heard of any of this, and I was like, "Oh no, you need to listen to this." And she just said she had never heard the concept of trading time for dollars, and she said that was just like, that's what I've been doing, and I don't want to do it anymore. And so that, I think, is a big thing that I'm striving for, is to learn how to be intentional about what each thing I do, the people that we interact with. And so I actually just got my book today in the mail. So thanks to that ice freeze, I just got it. So I haven't read it yet, but I know the principles that you teach and what we're all about, because, I've been blessed to be a part of this community for about 3 years. And so thank you for everything you've taught us. And thank you for putting in this book that we can share with other people.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. Thank you. The Viking, Mr. Nathan Webster, sir. Again, with a young family, certainly a gentleman who has always been principled from my viewpoint in so many ways. Takeaways from your standpoint from anything in the book?
Yes, and this piggybacks a little bit off of what Alex talked about. But I think for Melinda and myself, with our boys, I've always thought about a legacy. I have a legacy that's been passed on to me from my parents, but just really focusing in on the fact that the legacy is not just the financial. It's not about what you leave here on earth, but it's about the intangibles that you pass on. So that ties into those relationships that you build. But that's something that's definitely had an impact on us and helped us shift our focus and realign our thoughts regarding legacy. And I think also just watching that happen for our members within our community that you've helped bring along as well. I think a lot of times they come in with one thought on what their legacy is that they're going to work on, and it's usually investment focused, financially focused. But when they walk away, they've had that turned 180, and they realize that that's a small component of their legacy. But in the end, what they leave, in people in their relationships is far more important than that financial component. So
true. So true. Shifting our focus in life is something that's it's always an opportunity, and having the guts to do that and get the permission to do that is something that we sometimes just have to get out of the old mindset, right, and change the way we're thinking. Olivia, I think you are our youngest team member here. You've been with us for a good number of years, and I know that you have your ear to the ground at every one of our conferences. You're serving our members in so many ways. For you, really interested to hear about how you look at any change in your life, from the book or anything that you've kind of found through Freedom Founders with your experience.
I think personally, it's just a mindset shift. Just the possibilities of something different. I think it's very easy to just think like, oh, there's only one path through life. And I think just being a part of this community has opened my eyes to just the possibilities, and just kind of being able to there are more options than just one or two. And I think that's kind of been a big part of it, is just seeing that there is more out there than what first meets the eye.
Not limited by one pathway, not limited by society or an education path or anything in particular. Gives you options and choices in life, I think, are what we all want. Good deal. Let's go to Let's go to my COO, Davey Tyberski. Davey, you've got lots of experience with people and family, and two amazing young sons who you've already sewn into them very, very well, you and Gail. But takeaways for you.
Oh my goodness! First off, congratulations again on your another book, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. But like the Apprentice model as an example, big impact on Kevin and Dylan. The whole idea of there's another path, to build off what Olivia was saying. Unfortunately, we're kind of habits of our past, and depending on how you were brought up, you may believe some of those myths you've been led to believe about financial, freedom, about time freedom, relationship freedom. And I believe your book is a good example of somebody needs to read it, and when they go through it, they'll realize that if they just pick one of those freedoms, and they're able to dispel maybe one myth from their childhood or from their grown up teen years, whatever it might be, and you're able just to tweak their mindset a little bit differently, then I believe they'll have a lot more opportunity, not just financially, but also around their time and their legacy, and what some of the other team members had said as well. The other big part too is, and it's interesting when we talk to our members who come to Freedom Founders, is, and I could speak on all 5 freedoms, but I'm going to talk about the financial side of it for a second. They have this traditional way. They think there's one way, which is the stock market, their 401ks. And one thing you talk about all the time, which, I spent 20 years in corporate. So I built my 401k up. And quite honestly, all those years, there was never any other option for me. Nothing was ever presented to me. And since, hanging out with you and Candace for 10 plus years now, and I start calculating those dollars I locked up in the 401k, but they were producing zero cash every month. So, I want people just to really take a look at, the old mindset of you got to put a bunch of money in 401ks. But the second question they should be asking is, how's that benefiting you today? To your point, I was on the stream earlier, and you were talking about the oncology nurse. And the idea of, when you're on your deathbed, you're not thinking about money and those things. You're thinking about your relationships. But here's the thing I want to push people on in terms of their financial future. Why are you putting all this money into a 401k that you can't touch to your 59 and a half? God forbid God decides your number's up and you leave Earth at 40. What about all the time up to 40 years old? You basically had that money locked up. And I'm not saying money's everything. I'm just picking one part of what you teach here at Freedom Founders. But people need to think differently about their financial future and focus more on cash flow and how that can benefit them today as compared to waiting to their 59 and a half. I can go for 6 hours, but I understand we're under a deadline. So I'm going to pass it off to another team member. Again, love you and Candace. I love this whole team. It's awesome to wake up and have that feeling that we're serving others. And that's really what gets us out of bed in the morning. So thanks again, brother.
Oh, that's so good, Davey. Well, actually, we just got an extension. They want us to run the live stream because there's been such a huge outpouring. They want us to go for another 12 hours. So I'm going to put you in charge. I'm going to take a break and put you in charge. Davey's gone. Okay, we just lost him. But so much truth in that, Davey. And look, we all experience that. I don't care how much gray hair you get in life. If you're not evolving, you're not learning, you're not living. You never get to a point to where you've got the pinnacle of you got it all figured out. Not till the day you die. You still haven't figured it all out. Just hopefully people put themselves in a position where they can remove those myths that we've all been brought up to believe that tend to constrain our freedom, constrain our options. Like Olivia was talking about, it's more than one way, but we're not told that. We're told like, this is one way, you got to do it this way. And that just, I think, removes so many freedom opportunities from people. But you've just got to find other people that can show you, hey, it can be done. You don't have to follow what this association, this industry, society says you have to do. So great words of wisdom, great words. My amazing executive assistant, I was telling people today, Lindsay Cope, I'm going to bring you up next. Lindsay, I was telling people because they were asking me, what was the biggest challenge of, like getting things done. And I said, well, because I leave this stream of consciousness, which is actually called paper and stuff and ideas behind me. And I got to have somebody like scoops it up and like packages it back up and puts it in some kind of organization for me, because otherwise I just won't get to it. So Lindsay, from your standpoint, your vantage point, takeaways for you from the book or anything about, what our community is about.
Yeah, thank you, David. And I'll echo what the team has said so far. I mean, just a huge congratulations. We've had A lot of exciting times putting this whole thing together and pulling this off, and it's really a blessing to be here with you to help celebrate today on this launch day. So kudos to you and the rest of the team. I will say, just to sort of echo again what the team has said as far as the different, the freedoms and the principles in the book, personally, that I've taken away. It's not just relational, right? So, Alex talked about him and Amelia. Rick and I have had, deeper, better, smarter conversations in the last 5 years of being a part of Freedom Founders than we had in the 10 years prior, which is amazing. And as far as legacy and family and extending those conversations, to our daughter, Emma. Emma is a senior in high school. She's about to graduate, and she, on her very own, decided that college is not the path she wants to take. She's going against the grain. She read the apprentice model. And, I could not be more proud. We are engaging her in a lot of the deeper, even financial conversations that Rick and I are having for the family, just so that she's getting more exposed to that and knows that there's different ways to accomplish success. Success looks different for everybody, and it's not necessarily the traditional pathway. So that has been sort of a big breakthrough just in our family over the last few years, is having those types of conversations with the 17 and 18-year-old who's about to graduate high school and step out into the world. So that's been very, very fulfilling, just from that aspect as well. And then we've got, an 8-year-old who couldn't care less, right? But again, we're having conversations that we can, talk about even as a family, even with Cannon, and have him understand the principles of money and what it means to invest in other friendships and how to be kind to others, and that relationships matter, and our legacy and what we're teaching our children matter. So for that, I thank you. It's been a mindset shift for me as well. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Lindsay. Remember, even though Cannon may seem disinterested right now, he's still hearing the conversations, even if he's not directly involved in them. He's picking this stuff up right now, and it will become relevant at some point. So you are sewing into him, even though you don't have to sit him down and put him in front of a 4-hour Freedom Founders presentation webinar. Don't make him do that yet. Probably like he'll hate us, so don't do that. But he's getting it. He's getting it. So that's really, really good. Kennedy talks about the conversations that young kids hear from the top of the stairs, and the parents talking down below about not necessarily always positive things. I mean, the harsh things, the things aren't going well, and kids are picking all that up, and they're packaging and they're putting it in their brain somewhere, and it's forming their thought process and their thinking. So the more they can hear constructive discussions, even though they may not seem interested at the time, they're picking that stuff up. So that's really, really good. All right. I'm going to call you Dr. Nathaniel Brunner, because you have earned a doctorate in all things that I can't do, which is called tech. It's like the ninja who just makes these things happen that I just show up and say, help. You're one of our young guns in the group, who I just have tremendous respect for, because you're thinking the way you think at such a young age is way, way beyond where I was in my thinking in my peer group at that time. So what are your thoughts as we're having this discussion to wrap up this live stream launch today?
Yeah, no, David, first of all, again, congratulations, and thank you for just letting us be a part of this launch. This is the most monumental book launch I think you've had in my time here. So this is a big deal. But no, I think just one of the most fundamental things in it is, of course, getting people to think differently. And that goes beyond career and, money. I mean, just in general, if you can get people to know that it's okay to think differently and that they probably should think differently, that's going to serve them well in all aspects of life. I mean, even Jesus said, wide is the path that leads to destruction, but the path to life is narrow. So it's so easy to get caught up in groupthink and just follow whatever is set before us. But we really do need to be bucking that and going against the grain. And I think one of the, maybe one of the most important messages from the book, which is critical for young people at my age and our age to get, is that there is more to life than just following this traditional model, working for money, just putting your nose to the grindstone. And then, when you get to 60 years old, you can look up and see what's happened. And as you know, there's a lot of people that get there and they look back and they're like, wow, we missed the point of it. So I think the more that people can wake up to that, and I kind of had a reminder of it myself today when I, could have been working and preparing for this call, but was able to have a good conversation with a family member that needed that. And so just to get that, people thinking that way now, that you need to be investing in those relationships now rather than when you're 60. I think it's just so important. So thank you for that.
Well, you're leading the charge for your generation with those wisely spoken words. So really, really, really good, Nathaniel. Well, my lovely bride, Candace, I'm kind of saving all the wisdom for the end, because you sow into me each and every day and give me perspective that otherwise I wouldn't have. So what say you, dear, about all this conversation?
Oh, I'm just proud of you. It's a great book. And I agree with what Runner just said, that if we can re-engineer our perspective while the time is now and live the rest of our lives with intention, because we understand things differently and we're liberated from old mindsets, then it's great. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the team. You guys impress me every day. This is a great team in case you haven't met them yet. And I love you. That's it.
Amazing team. Amazing team. Well, gang, we are here at the top of the hour. We finished right on time, like we seem to always make that happen. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the celebration for the big launch. I feel like we need some kind of theme song for the end here, the Brady Bunch finale. I'm not sure what that is. We could sing a song, but I say we don't. And we thank our amazing hosts, the NG team, Casey and Hannah, who have been supporting all of our live streams and helping us with this launch, because it all is all about the impact. And so thanks to you all, and thanks for all of you who have been with us any part of the live stream today. And thanks to you for supporting the book, but more importantly, you're supporting other people in Tanzania, and also through Lone Star Casa, the child advocacy here in Texas that we're also part of. So proceeds of the book are going to some good places, besides the impact that the book could potentially have in other people's lives. So thank you all for your support. I think we'll sign off for today.